Hello, everybody, and welcome to the fourth iteration of the WHYBUT podcast. I am joined by Isaac, and I have a pressing question, Isaac. I was
Ooh.
actually tapped on the shoulder by a stranger the other day,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And I turned around and I
Whereabouts? Like
said,
just to build the world. Where were you at the time that this
so
took place?
I was on the coast, Isaac, of sunny Santorini, up high, and an American tourist tapped me on the shoulder. I turned around and I said, "Hello, sir. How can I help you?" And he said, "I've just been staring at you, and I wanted to know something." And I said, "Please ask away." And he said, "I want to know what Isaac's been up to." And you know what I said to him, Isaac? I said, "Don't you worry. Next time I see him, I'm going to ask him."
Well, Nick, I'm glad to know that we have international fans who are approaching you and asking you such pressing questions, such as what have I been up to? And Nick, the internet is an interesting place, right? Because a lot of talk these days goes into mental health and how people feel about the fact that a lot of what they see online is like a very small, very curated snapshot of somebody's life, right? We're out here, I'm asking you what you've been up to, you're asking me what I've been up to. We're talking about the highs, right? We're not talking about the mundanes. Sometimes we do, but for the most part, you go on Instagram and people are flying jets, people are lifting heavy weights, people are super skinny, people are doing all kinds of stuff, man. So I wanted to start by bringing this all back down to reality, Nick. And my first topic is that the other week, man, I was at the supermarket and I bought 4 kilograms of white onions because my supermarket, that normally I buy onions in like either loose, like individual onions, right? Because you can buy them like by the kilo, or you buy one onion, it's like 30 pence, or you can buy like a 3-pack, or you can buy like a kilogram, right? Those are usually the 3 options for onions. I went to my local Morrison's like last week, and they had a 4-kilogram bag of yellow onions, white onions, whatever you want to call them. They're white on the inside. And I was like, I gotta buy some, man. They were $2.99, which I thought was a bargain for 4 kilos of onions. I feel like normally I pay like £1 for 3 onions, and this is like, I think there's like 25 onions in this bag or something ridiculous. So I bought 4 kilos of onions, man, which, so some might not be a particularly eventful situation, Nick, but I'm trying to equal out, the FOMO. I'm trying to be a positive force on the internet. My assumption is that if a lot of what you see on the internet is a slice of someone's life that is highly edited to look the best it possibly can, then the only way you counter that is by talking about as much mundane stuff as you possibly can, man. How do you feel about onions?
I mean, is it just a testament to how old I'm getting that actually that's quite exciting to me?
I should have brought them with me. I've got the...
Yeah. I want to see it. I always go to Indian stores and I see these sacks of onions, and I always expect them to just be for restaurants, right?
Yeah.
Caterers, etc. Because I don't know. I buy loose onions, which you just mentioned, and especially red onions. White onions are very good. Red onions, they go grim quite quickly, in my experience, even when in the fridge, which I try and do as much as possible if I don't forget, to stop me from crying my eyes out when I chop them. So, I mean, that's kind of lit, man. If it was a sack of red onions, I would have said, damn, like I would expect that to just go grim. But the white onions, I love that. And anyone that knows me knows that I love onions,
Nick,
man. Honestly, I love onions.
I'm with you, man. I also love onions. I've been, they go in so many recipes, right? And there's so much stuff that you can make with onions already. Nick, so far, I made a tikka masala last week with some onion. It was, I took some chicken thigh, marinated it in like this, yogurt, lemon juice, spice blend for a day, and then, grilled it. It was so tasty, man. I made a goulash, which is like not German, it's a Hungarian, dish. It's like a very saucy tomato paprika-y dish that we made with beef. And just yesterday morning, man, I made some shakshuka for breakfast. Like canned tomatoes with chopped onions. And, it was so good. I'm working my way through these onions, man. It is It's good stuff.
I love shakshuka.
It's
Side
so
note,
good.
I love shakshuka. It's so good. My mum makes very good shakshuka. I tried to replicate it. It didn't work out. There's a fine line between you can't you so the way I've seen it made is prepare everything in your pan, and then you try and use a pan that can go under a grill, right? So you want a pan that doesn't have a rubberized handle. You want something that can, is rated to go in an oven effectively. And
Sure.
what you do is you put the pan under the grill or under the oven, and you set that there for a few minutes to let the heat from the grill or the oven cook the top of the eggs. And I've always thought that's a really fine line, because it's so easy to overcook those eggs, but you want that kind of whitish layer at the top where they're just perfectly cooked, but when you still poke them, the yolk comes out and it's all runny. I need to try and make them.
So I actually didn't use a grill for this. I used I forget the name of it. Like a casserole dish thing. Like it's a ceramic pot with a lid. There's a name for these. I forget the name.
Yeah, but, I know what you're on about. Yeah.
You can. I cooked it on the stovetop, right? So I cooked the whole thing without the. Obviously, you kind of cook down tomatoes and onions and whatnot into like this somewhat thick consistency, and then you make the little wells and you crack in your eggs. And for me, it was just cracking the eggs and then put the lid on and kind of let the steam that is generated by having the lid on there kind of cook the eggs. I've made it quite a few times, and you are right that it's by far, especially with like a non-transparent lid, it is so tricky to try and get the perfect eggs, because nobody wants like snotty, runny white yolk, like white around the yolk, right? That's like a big deal breaker for me whenever if I take a bite of an egg and like the white is still, snotty is the only word I can think of to describe it.
It's a good description. Yeah,
it's not good. It's real off-putting, but you do still want that like runny yolk, right? And especially when you got the lid on, man. The first like 2 times I made it, I left it on way too long. You've got like, hard-boiled eggs almost inside of your shakshuka, which doesn't taste terrible, but it's not ideal. But yesterday, man, those were some delicious, runny, perfect eggs inside of perfectly spiced shakshuka. All thanks, Nick, to 4 kilos of onions, which I'm slowly but surely working through. They're all decently sized onions as well. I feel like sometimes at my local supermarket, if you buy them loose, I've also been told by my headset that it is on low battery. I need to recharge it, so I'm going to quickly do that. I'm going to put one earbud away and hope that by the time I need it, I can swap it back out.
I always do that. I've done that a few times. Luckily, I've not had mine in too long today, but yeah, little one-ear trick.
Whenever I go to the supermarket, the like loose onions or the 3 onions for like £1, which is expensive, or like whatever, they're usually quite big, but then they'll sell like a bag of 1 kilo onions and you get like 40 because they're like this big. They're tiny, like I'm holding up like a golf ball sized shape. You get these tiny little white onions, and I don't want to have to peel and chop like 100 tiny white onions per recipe, man. It's not it. But these ones, they were big, they were cheap. I bought them, man.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Those little golf ball sized ones that you see, they have their place, especially if you're cooking a smaller dish just for yourself. But I live by the garlic rule when it comes to onions, in that even if you have a fat one, man, you can never have too many onions. You can't have too much onions. The way it caramelizes and cooks down is so good.
I'm with you. Good. I love garlic. This is not a food podcast, by the way, but like, I love garlic so much. I always try and buy the super like fat garlic cloves. Like you can buy like usually a 3-pack of tiny little garlic cloves, or you can buy like one big old garlic clove, like cluster that is, but garlic bulb, I guess. And if I'm using the small ones, if I bought like a 3-pack of small garlic bulbs, a recipe calls for like 3 garlic cloves. I'm putting like 5 or 6 in there, man. Because these things, they're tiny. I'm like, they need to be, you gotta get some garlic in there, man.
100%. And especially when they say like, grate 1 garlic clove, 90% of that is remaining as paste on your grater. Yeah. So you've got to account for that. I don't know.
I feel like the same with the garlic press. I have a press where you press it through, and like half of the garlic clove is still in the press. And even after I try and scrape it down, I do it a few times, and there's still way too much garlic lost. I'm with you, man. I always like add a few more cloves in to really make sure I get all of the garlic that I'm promised in that dish.
Yeah, and those presses, I used to use a press. Nightmare to clean.
They're
terrible.
Horrible.
Even
They're
in the
so
dishwasher.
Bad. Well, so you've got to clean them instantly, because garlic is like, garlic I think is surprisingly sugary. Like, you don't think of it that way, but I think it's got more sugar than like a lot of other vegetables like onion and ginger and stuff. And
Mhm.
so from my experience, you're right. If you leave it and then put it in the dishwasher, the garlic before you've like
Just
the garlic's
dries
gonna
up.
dry and stick,
Yeah.
and then the dishwasher can't take it off. You've got to wash them straight away. Like as soon as you're done with it, go rinse it under the sink, clean it, put it away. But like I don't really rate garlic presses. I use one, but I feel like half of the time I push down the garlic and then half the garlic just kind of like squeezes up in the gaps around the bit that's supposed to push the garlic through, and then only a
Mhm.
quarter of it actually ends up getting minced, and then you've got to go through it again. And like you said, they're a nightmare to clean. There's like little hinges and hooks, and it's just there needs to be a better way, man. There's got to be a better way.
Yeah. That's why I grate mine now. I've got those little itty
Like a
bitty
microplane
graters.
kind of
Yeah,
thing, yeah.
exactly. I try to use those whenever something asks for minced garlic. But yes, that sounds very tasty. And the question is how many approximate of the was it 4 kilos of onions?
Yes.
How many estimate kilos have you gone through, and how much do you have left?
I might have used. I've used a fair few onions. You know what? I'll go get the bag, man. I'll be right back.
Oh God, yes, go for it. Go for it. I want to see.
Okay, so this it's a very poorly opened bag. I kind of just like ripped through the center of it. But this right here is this bag of onions, right? And
Okay, you know what? It's smaller than I expected.
These are pretty big.
That's pretty hefty. That's a good size. That's a good size onion.
Like they're not massive,
Yeah.
they're not gigantic, but they're not tiny. I feel like sometimes they're real small. But yeah, no, I've just my scales were out in the kitchen. For those listening to the audio only podcast, I just held up a red kind of like string bag of onions that has about 2.5 kilos left inside of it.
Okay. So you've gone through them pretty nicely.
I'm telling you, man, every dish I've been having, onions in it.
Yeah, perfect. That's a worthy. You're getting your value out there. To be fair, you're getting your value out of them. Very good. I mean, that's brilliant. That is brilliant. I mean, we'll go on the topic of mundane and down to earth. This podcast, Isaac. I'm not well. I was telling Isaac before we started recording that like 2 hours ago, I was great, right? So for context, I got back from a holiday last night. Fantastic. The time zone I'm used to is 2 hours ahead, right? So I went to bed as soon as I got home yesterday, woke up this morning at 6 a.m. feeling fantastic. I was like, this is brilliant, because I was used to getting up at 8 when I was away. I got up, I was like, this is great. I'm going to try and keep this schedule as much as possible. I got up, got ready. I did some work, had my breakfast, got my coffee. And then about 9:30, so 3.5 hours after waking up, this cloud started to come over my head. And I was like, maybe this is, at first I thought it was the tiredness from waking up early, right? Even though it wasn't early to what I was used to, psychologically, when I wake up, I open my phone, which you're not meant to do, but I opened it up and it says the time of 6 a.m. I'm like, oh, this is early. And then as you kind of get to do stuff through the day, especially after you eat food in the morning, you start to feel a little bit of fatigue, right? And I was like, okay, maybe this is normal, whatever. And then the scratchy throat started to come in, and the sniffle started to come in, and the extra fatigue started to come in. I was like, oh no, this is not good. This is not good. But I've had my paracetamol, and like all bad phone contracts, Isaac, I think I have about 2 hours of talk time in me, so I'm all good. But it's the airports. We were saying it's the bloody airports.
It has to be the airports, man.
Oh.
Jeez, they're just hubs for disease and infection, right?
Literally. It's terrible.
Yeah.
And there was some people coughing on that airplane as well. Like the real retchy coughs. I was like, oh,
coming from the lower intestine. It's really coming from
oh yeah. Coming from the bottom of their souls. Isaac.
Coming from the toenails all the way up.
Yeah. Down to up. Oh, but we go. So if my voice sounds a little bit kind of scratchy, that is why.
It's terrible, man. It's terrible. Yeah, I hate it.
I was away, as mentioned. Yes. Had a good time. Very nice. But I've been making observations because, fun fact, pretty much from the point at which we recorded the last episode of this podcast to the point at which we're recording this episode was the time in which I have been abroad. So we have a little docket, right, of things we're going to talk about. All of mine are about me being away. And I was literally there through this last 8 days, like observing things and noting them down on my phone. And let's talk about this. And the first thing, man, is holy crap, how well some of the cave houses in Greece are built, or the Greek islands, because I was staying in this kind of white dome-shaped house, which is really cool. And the walls, it has those walls where you knock on them, it hurts your knuckles, right? Solid walls. And it was quite interesting because as we were traveling around during this trip, we could see a lot of these houses being built, and it is bricks, but then they like cement all over the bricks to get this really solid kind of structure going, which is great because for insulation where it's hot outside.
I was going to say, I think like the idea is you can't. I guess you can paint brick, but it's easier to paint whatever they're coating it, right?
Yes.
And then they paint them white so that they kind of keep the heat out for one, and try and keep them cool, right? You cool it down inside and then try and keep it cool so it doesn't get just incredibly warm, because I'm imagining it was hot.
About 30, felt like 35 according to the forecast. So it was pretty sweltering.
I don't mind 30 when I'm away, when I'm relaxing, when I've got nothing to do, and when you've got potentially access to like air conditioning, right, or at least the ocean, right. But like 30 at home, it's horrendous.
Yeah, not gonna lie, man. So pretty much exactly the time I was away, the UK got as hot, if not hotter, than where I was. And I was there not envious of it. I was like, I'm kind of glad I'm not in the country in that heat, because I wouldn't have been able to sleep, honestly, with that kind of heat. I got back last night. I got into my apartment, and it was cold right outside. It was quite rainy, and the temperature had calmed down a lot. I came in and my apartment was boiling because it was so hot last week that it had retained the heat. And 10 minutes of having all the windows open, it cooled down. And I was like, Jesus, that must have been pretty bad last week if it's retained the heat, 24 hours or so after it stopped being hot. But yeah, anyway, back to the way that these structures were built. They were so solid, right, that just all wireless signals were hampered, right?
Yeah,
so
sure.
This place that I was staying in had Wi-Fi. Connected to the Wi-Fi, all good. You go into a different room or you go into the wrong room, gone. Completely gone. And this was somewhat okay. I was like, okay, this, I can manage this. I'll keep the door open. Keep the door open, go around the corner at the wrong angle, gone, right? I don't think you would be able to keep any kind of reliable Wi-Fi system in these buildings if you didn't have some kind of power line powered mesh Wi-Fi system.
You need a mesh network with one node in each and every room of the house.
every room. So that was interesting. But the thing that really exemplified it for me was Bluetooth. So I would have my earphones that I'm wearing now connected to my phone, have something playing, right? I'd be in the same room. I'd go round a corner, cut out. Compared to being in the UK, where I could be the complete opposite size of the of my place, right? With 1, 2, 3, 4 walls in between. But these walls are so thin / penetrable by signals that is completely fine. So I just thought that was quite funny because like the structures of these kind of places are just completely hostile to any kind of wireless signal. And they were also like Faraday cages for cellular as well. So anytime I wanted to speak to someone, I'd have to go up on the terrace and try and get some 4G.
It's always interesting because for my house, the There's just that there's a hodgepodge of some walls are solid brick and some walls
Hmm.
are hollow, right? And I'm assuming in your apartment, basically all the walls are hollow, right? They're all like
Yes.
non-supporting walls, right? And so
Yeah.
for me, there'll be like one wall, like this wall behind me, I go past that, and it's like, yeah, that's fine. But then this wall to this side of me, if I try and go to that side, Bluetooth just cuts out entirely. Like if I try and walk
Right.
from here to the kitchen, like I'll get out the door, it'll be fine. As soon as I step a few steps further forward, it just cuts out completely. And yeah, it's so bizarre. I think there's like a couple of steel beams as well, like close to the roof, because there are certain points in the house where just Wi-Fi cannot get through. It's like I say steel beams, made of freaking lead with the efficacy at which they destroy Wi-Fi signals. It's ridiculous, man.
It's made me have like it kind of brought down my expectations of wireless, because I assume most people live in this kind of utopia in that wireless signals are just completely magical, right? And they
Just works
are
everywhere all the time.
exactly they don't care about walls or anything like that. You just expect it to work. But
Yeah.
it kind of reminded me that these are just signals that are bouncing off walls and through the air and going through different surfaces when I was in this place. But it was a very interesting observation, and yeah, there was a few things that I observed when I was away.
Okay.
A couple of other observations, Isaac. One of the things that one of the kind of etiquettes in Greece that is better than the etiquette in the UK is paying the bill at a restaurant. Right. So went to a lot of restaurants when I was away.
Yep.
Really nice. But one thing that I noticed that was consistent across all of these restaurants is that when you're finished with your food, you just go up to the front of the restaurant and you just say, "Can I pay the bill?" And they're like, "Yeah, here you go. Here's your receipt. Card machine out. Take your payment. Leave."
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And this happened for like at the first place, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that was interesting," because we noticed that
Yeah.
no one actually came to take our bill, right?
Yeah.
Next place, asked for the check. Check arrived. They're like, "Here you go," and then you're effectively expected to just whenever you want to pay, take your check up to the front, and then you either pay cash or card. And then that's when we noticed it was a trend, and it was probably just part of the culture there or the etiquette. And then next place, we just, as soon as we finished and we needed to leave, go up to the front, immediately get the check, pay the bill, out. And for people who don't have that etiquette, so for international listeners, in the UK, we have this
Bizarre
very bizarre system where you finish your food and you kind of decide you want to leave, and then the game of eye contact
you
starts.
Yeah.
Right, where you have to try and catch one of the waiting staff's attention. Yeah, and you're like, and you catch their eye, and sometimes you'll catch their eye and they won't actually come to you, and sometimes you catch their eye and they kind of acknowledge that they're going to come to you, and they come to you and you say, "Please can we have the bill?" And they say, "Sure, no worries." Four
I don't know if you've
minutes
noticed,
later,
seemingly a universal trend as well that I've noticed,
Yeah.
and I do it instinctively, is that you'll catch their eye, and sometimes if you just do this, even though you don't sign for a bill anymore, if you just do a little squiggle, they'll bring you a bill. Like people,
it's the
it's a
universal bill
known
sign,
signal,
right?
Right?
Yeah,
You just kind of,
yeah.
you know, give them one of those when you've looked at them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, then they want the bill," and they'll go get the bill for you. There's no signing involved in these days.
No.
So I find this interesting, Nick, because there are a few places around me, again, usually like smaller kind of brunch places, that will do this, right? Where you finish your food, it's table service, they bring the food to you, but when you're done, you get up, you go to the counter and you pay. And for those situations, I enjoy it thoroughly. I prefer being able to get up when I am done, pay and leave, right? The many a times I've been sat in a very busy restaurant and you're waiting like 20 minutes because you're trying to find, like you're just trying to get someone to come and give you the bill, right? No, your waiter hasn't walked past in 20 minutes. No waiters are anywhere to be seen. And you're just kind of sat there like, we need to leave, but we need to pay, right? At the same time though, man, I don't know if this system of paying at the till will work for a busier restaurant. I'm thinking of like, you know, you go to small cafes and they seat maybe like 30 people, right? But a busier restaurant, you can fit like well over 100 people in those, man. Like, you know, potentially like 200 plus. You know, they've got a lot of seating. I would think it would be horrible having people queuing up, like trying to pay their bill, and there's just like this queue of people that are then blocking the aisles. The waiters can't get past. Things are all getting, messed up. People are getting annoyed that they have to wait, even though that they're there to get to pay. And it's just like I think, as annoying as it is to not be able to pay your bill instantaneously, I think for larger establishments, I think I might prefer the fact that they kind of come around and do it at the table. You know what I mean?
What was interesting was I was in some quite busy restaurants,
Really?
and there was no queues. I think
Mm,
everyone kind of finishes at different times and go up, right? The thing that I thought might be a problem is splitting, right? If
yeah.
you're in a group or you're with multiple people and you want to split the bill, going up, then receiving your bill, and then having to calculate on the spot could get annoying for both the people and the restaurant. It's not, the most kind of seamless way to do things, right? But I thought about it a bit more, and what I realized that I actually preferred over this system as opposed to the UK system was the lack of, and this is the problem I think with the UK system, the lack of a waiting period between receiving the bill and getting the card machine, right?
Right.
So I don't know about you, but this is an extreme annoyance pet peeve of mine is you get the bill, right? You ask for the bill, you get the bill, all good. I don't mind that at all. But then there's another 10-minute period where you have the bill and you want to pay it, but you have to do this entire rigmarole again, try and get eye contact of one of the waiting staff to then bring you the card machine to pay it. And
Yeah.
it was the lack of this that I really, really liked, because in some restaurants when I was away, they did bring the check to your table, right? And then even if you were splitting it, you could calculate that at the table. And then, you would be able to then just go up to the front and then pay it, and then you could get out of there. And I think that is the biggest annoyance to me. And it's interesting because in busy restaurants in the UK, it is, it's advantageous for the restaurant
To
to
get you
get
out.
people out as quick
Yeah.
as possible, right? To get the next people in. So it's always confused me. I don't know
I
if
imagine
you feel
that-
this weight.
Oh, I do, 100%, man. I couldn't agree with you more. I think that the trouble that the UK restaurants run into is that they're probably trying to pay as little as staff, as little for staff as possible, right? And so they end up in this situation where they want to churn through people, but the staff are all busy serving new customers, serving drinks, serving tables, doing everything that they possibly can, that you just get lost, right? Like once you're done, once you got the bill, the task of going back over to you and giving you the card reader or spending a few minutes doing that, like, just gets outweighed by all these other tasks that feel more urgent in the moment, right? Getting hot food to people, getting drinks to people who have already been waiting, quote unquote, too long for their drinks. I hate it. I hate massively. Like if I ask, so like I rarely split the bill, right?
Yeah.
And if I do, if usually I'll pay for the bill, and if it's a split thing, I'll just have people send me money afterwards, right?
Yeah,
I usually
yeah.
don't. I don't think I've ever been to the restaurant and been like, hey, can you divide this by 4 and we can pay on 4 different cards? Like, I always want the card machine to come with the bill. If they bring the bill over, I want them to be holding the card machine. I can take a quick check and be like, yep, that looks right, and then just pay it straight away, right? And that's it. And that's all I want. I despise this setup where you wait 10, 15, 20 minutes to get your bill, and then the person walks away, and then you've got to wait another 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes before your card machine comes over, and it's just like, I've got places to be, It happens,
Right?
it always happens when I go for dinner before going to watch a movie at the cinema. Every single time. I'll go, we'll eat, I'll think, oh yeah, no, we'll give ourselves like an hour and a half to eat. It'll be fine. And then you go and you finish eating, and the movie like starts in 20 minutes, and it takes like 30 minutes to leave. Like, I'm just like, I want to go. And like, there are so many times where I think about walking up to, like, because usually there's a till somewhere, right? Like a counter. I think about walking up and just being like, hey, can I pay my bill? And I think most of the time they probably would let you, right? If you walked up and asked in the UK, I think almost anywhere you probably could go and just pay your bill, but no one does. Nobody does it.
No. Yeah, because you'd have that. There's that like British worry that they'll be like, yeah, of course, yeah, just calm down, go sit at your table. But no, I think you are right. You are right. But yeah, surely it would be there would be no extra or no massively extra time involved for the wait staff to bring the card machine with the bill, right? If they're bringing you the bill anyway, or
Well,
if they're worried about people splitting, they could ask when you ask for the bill, are you planning to split? In which case, then they'd bring you the bill without the card machine and let you do that. If not, bring the card machine and you can be like, quick, yeah,
I
that's
think
all good, tap,
I think it
done.
depends though, Nick. Because I think you and I are probably quite polite people. I think the vast majority of the time, we're going to get the bill and we're just going to pay the bill. And then it might not be till after we've paid the bill that we notice something's wrong with the bill, right? And try and get it rectified potentially if there's something wrong with it. Whereas I think there's a subsection of the UK who will get the bill and then we'll spend like 10 minutes meticulously going line by line, being like, okay, 2 Cokes, yep, at $2.45 each, yep, that adds up, and then we got one, and they just like going through the whole receipt to make sure that it is pristine from top to bottom, and then, only then, wanting to pay for their meal, right? And so I imagine that in restaurants where they do bring the card reader right away, you sometimes have that situation where the waiter just kind of stands there awkwardly with the card reader, wasting like up to 10 minutes of their hour pay time waiting for this person to check the receipt, right? And then even then, I imagine that there are some like people who are not as polite as we are, who like kind of just the receipt's brought to them, they sit there, they're mid conversation, they finish up their conversation before they check the receipt, and then they check the receipt, and then and so like the waiter's just kind of stood there potentially for like 20 minutes waiting. And so I think that there's just not everyone is as in and out, get stuff done efficiently as we are, Nick, maybe.
Yeah, it's an interesting observation. I do see that. I have had some very good experiences in the UK,
Just a
where
general
someone
blanket
will
statement.
with just a general blanket statement,
I've had some
where
good
you that's a very
I've
good
had some good
experiences
experiences in the UK.
That's why I still live here, so I haven't emigrated out yet. People will take your order, right?
Mhm.
And they will have the card machine with them.
Yeah.
And as soon as your order is given, so this is different to going up to a counter, placing your order and paying there, right? Which is it does happen in quite a few places in the UK, which I like.
I hate it, by the way.
Oh, do you? Interesting. Well, we'll move on to that in a second then. Where I've had my order taken, and then they'll be like, "Okay, yeah, this is you. So just to confirm, it's this, and this. That's this much. Here's the card machine." And then if you want anything else, when you then signal for someone to come over, and then you place your order whatever else, they'll just take your payment again, right? So the point is, at any point, if you've not had your if you've had your order taken, you've paid for whatever you've ordered, right? The downside to that is that if you have any issues, you've already paid, which then puts you on the back foot if there is anything wrong. But every time I've been to a place where I've gone to the front, ordered something and paid, and something has not come out, or it's taken a really long time, they've always been really, really good about that. I think most times I've actually got a refund. They've been like, "Oh, here you go. Here's cash out the till, right?
Yeah.
For whatever you ordered." And then eventually it would come out, and then I've eaten late, but albeit for free.
Yeah.
But why do you dislike the order at the till?
I understand the premise. I think from a restaurant standpoint, you confirm that the person can pay for the food before you give it to them, right? It takes all of the risk out of the restaurant side, which I fully understand, right? Like that's how it works basically everywhere else, right? You pay for your goods before you get them, right? Restaurants are a weird scenario in which you consume the food, consume all the goods entirely and the services, and then there's this gamble, I guess, as to whether or not they can pay. Obviously, you shouldn't be a restaurant if you don't think you can pay for the food, but it happens, right? People have their cards declined or turn out they've forgotten their cards, whatever it is. For me, though, I dislike this rigmarole you've just described of having to pay again and again and again and again and again, right? Like, especially if I'm going for a sit-down meal, I probably want more than one drink, So ordering one drink and then having to pay again, like getting someone to come over and they go through the whole thing again and you're paying again for another drink and then, if you want dessert, then it's a third, you got another thing in there and it's like, I feel like from a restaurant standpoint, I think the reason most don't, I think you probably make more money if you don't do it this way. I think it de-incentivizes people ordering more stuff, right? Many times, if I go to, like, I think Nando's do this. I've not been to Nando's many times where you go and you pay up front.
Yeah.
I've only been to Nando's 2 or 3 times, like, been to the restaurant. For me, though, if I go to a restaurant like that, I will just, like, drink less, right? Instead of having, like, a second or third drink that I might normally have, I'll just order one drink and I'll drink it slowly because I don't want to have to order again. Right? I don't want to have to get somebody over. I don't have to place a second order. I don't have to put the card, have them go and get the card machine or whatever. I'll bring it to me and then put my PIN in again or contactless again. And it's just, I end up ordering less, and I think it's just not ideal.
Interesting. I see those points. Is the grand answer to all of this then paying at your table on a online
it is, yes.
website?
This is the way it's done.
Yeah.
I mean, so, 5 years ago, I was like a massive proponent of this, right? For the longest time, I was like, why do they not just let you order at your table and then like pay on your phone or whatever, right? And then they did for a brief period of time. We had like the scenario that shall not be named from 2020 to 2022 ish. And a lot of places did have QR codes at the table. You'd scan it, you place your order, and then you pay, and it'd all be done and whatever. And that kind of works in the same way, because then if you do want more, you just pay again, right? You place your order again, you pay again. And like, what I really like, I like it when you can pay at your table. I don't love having to use whatever janky system they have in place for ordering food, right? Having now experienced what I hoped and dreamed for, I much prefer having someone come and take my order, right, at a restaurant. I think that's the best way of doing it. I like that setup. But I prefer being able to scan a QR code at my table, being able to see my receipt then and there, pay and just leave, right?
Yeah.
That is the perfect setup to me. So I like the hybrid system where someone will come and take your order, someone will bring you the drinks and stuff, but then, come and ask you if everything's all right, ask if you want another drink or whatever. But then at the end of the setup, you can just, instead of trying to hunt them down with your eyes, trying to get the receipt, I prefer just being able to scan the QR code, see my receipt. I can obviously ask if there's anything wrong with it, but if there's not, I can just pay it on my phone and leave. That, I think, is the perfect system in my book.
Yeah. I think we've got a tier list here, right? Because at the bottom, we've got proprietary apps, right? This is where whichever establishment you've gone to have either created their own app, or even worse, they have probably paid far too much money to sign up with a service that
is somehow
where you download
worse.
the services apps, right? Which is worse. It's always
how
worse.
They're worse. I don't know how companies that do like proprietary, like their own menu ordering system. Like, obviously, I don't think anyone's doing their own menu ordering system. I think they're using like because there's different. Again, we're going way too far in the weeds here, but there's different tiers of systems, right? Like there'll be some that take like a fundamental e-commerce system and then build their app on top of that, and there'll be others that buy like the pre-made all-in-one app where they just put in their food items, right?
Mm-hmm.
But those last ones where they buy like the all-in-one thing, you'd think that'd be the best, but somehow they're the worst possible thing imaginable. And the custom ones are much better. But I don't have to sign up. I don't have to give you my name, address, email address, phone number, bank account info, birth certificate copy, photo ID, and blood type before I can order some, prawn cocktail. I don't. I just want to be able to pay for it, and leave.
Exactly.
So I really dislike when you're forced to do it. I've been to a few places. I went to like a Pizza Hut like 2 years ago, and they had waitstaff walking around, but they were like, "Yeah, you've got to order through the app." And I'm just like, oh, and it was terrible. It was a horrible app experience, and I didn't like it.
That is horrible.
But no, you are right. There is a tier list. So you're putting apps at the bottom.
At the bottom. Next up, right, is web-based. So web-based.
Web is better than apps. Yep.
100%. So the next tier up from apps is web-based, but you have to create an account, right?
That's horrible.
Awful.
Horrible.
Awful.
I would probably
rogue accounts.
Yeah.
And I have been at some pubs where that's been the case, and I've gone up to the bar. They have a bar, right? And they're like, oh no, today we're just doing app only, right? Because all the people behind the bar are making drinks that people have ordered using the web-based system. So that's the next tier, right? Terrible. Then we go one up, which is web-based. You don't have to create an account.
Yeah.
But you have to put your payment information in every time, right?
Yeah. Oh, I it annoys, I'm getting so triggered, Nick, because this is a complete tangent, man. But like, so there are so many places that charge for things and don't give you the option to save your payment details, and also don't take like Apple Pay. And I just think these companies don't want to make money, right?
Yeah.
I play badminton at my local like leisure center, whatever they call it. It's like it's run by the council, right? Which explains why the app is terrible. But I go on the app and I pay. Every time I have to I click badminton, I click the hour slot I want, and I go to pay, and every time it takes me to the worst like world pay app payment scheme setup. I'm gonna send you a screenshot here, Nick, of what they want me to fill in. Because every time I have to select my country that goes from A to Z, United Kingdom's right at the bottom. I don't know who else, I don't know who from Azerbaijan is going to play badminton at my local leisure center. That's why that's at the top, right? And so, but then you go and you pay, and there's no option to save your payment method. So every time you got to go get your card, you got to type in the 16-digit card number, the 4-digit expiry year, the 3-digit code on the back, the name on the card. And I'm just like, do you guys, it's all for like £8. And I'm like, do you not want to make money? Do you want me to, you know, I hate it, man.
I don't know about you, but because it is World Pay as well, every single time you have to go through your bank verification too, where it's like your bank's like, hey, can you like verify using these 3 steps that it's really you? Pay for £8. I actually get that a lot for £0 kind of holding deposits for restaurants. So if I'm booking a time slot at a restaurant and you put your card details in, so that effectively if you don't turn up and you haven't cancelled in advance, they'll charge you, £5 per person, £10 per person. So they will charge my card £0 just to have my details. And my bank's like, I think someone's trying to steal all of your money. Please can you make sure this is you by, coming to your local branch and, providing your thumbprints? I'm like, no, why?
We need a blood sample to make sure it's you. But like, look at this. Look at what I sent you. The screenshots I sent you. This is like an in-app purchase. This is not like a web-based thing. I had to download an app, sign up for an account, and then look at the interface that they are using in 2023 to pay. So you have to first select MasterCard. First of all, it's tiny. You can see this is a screenshot, right? Could you explain what you're looking at here?
So I'm looking at a World Pay payment system. I especially like that at the bottom it says copyright 2012. So that goes to show the last time that this has been updated. It doesn't look like it's from 2012. It looks like it's from 2002. And it's got like a clip art 3D image of a small padlock that you use on a suitcase from like the mid 2000s before numbered locks became more prevalent, and it's basically designed for a desktop, right? But it's clearly being done on a mobile phone, and all the little fields are all small, and you got to put in every single box, like your billing address and your email and the capture at the bottom that will probably ask you to identify 3 different bikes, and it tells you you're wrong. It's that's pretty nasty. This is where like Stripe is trying to like make headway and does things a little bit better. But that is nasty. That is very nasty.
This looks like a scam.
It does.
It looks like I'm about to get scammed, but it's not. I go and they let me into the badminton court every week, but I just don't get it. I don't get it why it's so bad. But so that's the kind of thing you sometimes see when you go and pay for a meal on a web-based non-login system. You'll get something like that, and you can't save your card details, and you have to go through that every single time. And especially, like you said, if you're at some kind of pub where you're ordering multiple rounds, you don't order everything at once like you do for a meal. You order a drink, and then a little while later you want to order more drinks, and then a little while later maybe you want to order more drinks and food or whatever, and it just, you've got to do it again and again and again, and you sat there with your card trying to read it. The more drinks you have, the harder it is to read it.
I do mine from memory.
They don't want your money, right?
Yeah. I do mine from memory, and each time I'm like, like this on my keypad. And it gets to the point at which I think I just rely on other people to start buying drinks. So we're getting up. We're in probably like the C tier now. The tier above that is web-based. Don't have to create an account. Takes Apple Pay and Google Pay.
Bingo,
right?
Yes.
That's
all you need to do.
Excellent.
I don't know if it's more expensive for them to take Apple Pay over just like regular card details.
Yeah. But this is the thing. Lowest barrier to entry possible, right? The fees from Apple Pay and Google Pay are definitely higher. It's why a lot of places also don't take American Express, because the fees are higher, right?
I understand.
Obviously, all these middlemen
I feel like
it.
there's a lot of places that take Apple Pay and Google Pay that don't take Amex.
That is also true. I think it's a little bit more, but it's not as much as Amex. So this is great, right?
Yeah.
This is very seamless. I've been to a few chains, especially that do this,
Yeah.
and always have a very good time. And then my like A/S tier at the top. I don't know when the last time you went to Wagamama's was, which if people outside the UK don't know, is a kind of Japanese fusion restaurant chain in the UK, right?
Yep.
I don't know when they introduced this, but I've been noticing it the last few times I've been, 2-3 times in the last year. They have a system which is what you've described earlier, right? Where you actually take your order from one of the wait staff,
Yep.
and then on your table is a QR code. You scan the QR code and it shows you your table's bill, and you can pay the bill using Apple Pay, right? Which is amazing because you don't have to pay multiple times. And it also has a split feature, so you can tick your items and then pay, and then someone opposite you can also scan it, tick their items and pay, and then eventually the total amount owed goes to zero, and then you just leave, right?
Yeah.
That's the best.
The restaurant that I had in mind was Zizzi's, which is a fast casual Italian restaurant here in the UK. They have the same system where someone will come and take your order, someone will come and bring you drinks, but at any time you can order more drinks via the app, or more food if you want via the app, and you can also just pay, not the app, sorry, like you scan a QR code and then you can just pay and leave. And it's the best. I love it. Like, I think that should be the standard, in my opinion, because that way you don't have to take up somebody's time when you want to pay and leave, right? You can just pay and leave, and it's great. I think what could work, I guess, if we wanted to keep some relics of the old system, is maybe because oftentimes I think as well, like they struggle. It seems like establishments struggle with numbering tables correctly. Like they move tables around, they split tables up, and so having a QR code like attached to the table is awkward, and it limits how much you can maneuver your tables, right? I think what could work better, and what they should do, is get rid of the card readers altogether. Print the receipt off with a QR code on it, a unique QR code on the receipt. Bring the receipt to the table when asked, or at the end of the meal or whatever, and then you can just scan the QR code on the receipt and pay via Apple Pay or via a card. I think that would be for me, what might be like the S+ tier is like, just having the option to pay digitally after a receipt's been given. I think that would be great. And that still gives the restaurant the flexibility to like maneuver their tables so that if like a party of 12 comes in, they don't have like 6 different QR codes on their table because they've pushed, 4 two-seaters together or whatever, right? Like, or 4 four-seaters together. So I think that would be maybe an ideal situation, but then I don't know how hard it is to generate a QR code on the fly for an order a few hundred times a night. I don't know if that's like, I don't generate QR codes.
Yeah. No, it's interesting actually, because what I have noticed in some places is they don't put the QR code on the table, but they put it in the little kind of stand that has the menus and the sauces in them, so that then they can move tables around and then put this stand with the number on in the middle, and then they can dynamically change the table layouts, but then have the QR code's got to be separate from the physical tables themselves, which I think is quite a good implementation of that. But it is interesting, going back to an earlier point, how much trust there is in the like restaurant system globally, where you just eat your food. And, a lot of the time, if it's so hard to get wait staff, there's no one there. Like, people could, if you wanted to, or if they wanted to, just walk out,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
And
I think I think it's very unlikely that you're going to get caught if you were to leave, right? I think I remember reading something like a month or two ago, like a pub had like a family-owned pub had like released CCTV footage or whatever of people who had eaten and left, and they were like in trouble because it's like a GDPR violation or something to release that CCTV footage. Like, they were in trouble for releasing the non-blurred because they were identifiable in the footage, and the footage was released specifically to identify them, right, as them not paying their bill. Like, they were in trouble for like breaking some GDPR violation about storing personal data and then releasing that without. And it was just like, so I feel like you're not going to get, pulled up for it most likely. But I wouldn't risk it. Again, the Nik Isaac Corporation doesn't involve doesn't encourage dining and dashing.
Pay your bills.
That's the thing. Sometimes as well, you go to a nice restaurant, you can be like hundreds of pounds worth of food that's just delivered to you on hope that you will pay for it after the fact, right? Which is wild.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think the most I've ever seen a bill come to in the UK, I was at a work thing and the bill was like £570. and then like one person pays it. But that restaurant, we were like in a corner of like a little get up, right? So like we could have walked out at any point.
Yeah.
So it's super interesting the amount of trust that's in the UK restaurant system. But there you go, restaurants. If you want full customer satisfaction and increased throughput of customers, if you are busy or in your busy times, for the love of God, please use QR code payment systems and accept Apple and Google Pay.
If you don't know, if you don't have a system set up, just reach out to us. We offer our consulting services.
Yeah.
We'll help you figure it out. You know, we take a nominal fee of every order forever after the fact, after our services.
Yeah,
but,
regardless of if the system's removed or kept.
Just in perpetuity. But,
exactly.
but we'll help you get it set up. All right, we'll give you some guidance, okay, on how to effectively set up what we, the two of us, exclusively perceive to be the best option going forward.
Exactly.
What annoys me though? What annoys me so much? Like, it's a little tiny thing. I'm going back to this Pizza Hut example, man.
Go on.
Because you go in, you sit down, and they're like, you've got to order through the app, right? And I'm like, I don't want to order through the app. I want to order through the... two old people come in. These people are like 60. They sit down. They don't even tell them about the app. They just ask them what they want. They take their order as if it's an old... And I'm like, I'm fuming at this point. I've had to download this app, sign up, give them my blood type, and try and order through this horrible system. And these older people, who I'm going to assume that they've assumed don't know how to use, don't have a phone, or don't know how to use an app, or don't want to have to stand there for 45 minutes explaining how to download the app, how to fill it out. They just took the order and let them pay the old-fashioned way. That bad Pizza Hut.
Oh, Pizza Hut bad. Pizza Hut bad.
Very bad.
Very bad. Very bad. You know what? I wonder if companies approach these brands and offer this service for a really, really low price, because they'll just take the data if you're forced to create accounts and stuff.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe that's why. And maybe the honest systems that just let you check out as guests and, pay via, slightly more anonymous payment methods. Maybe they're more...
Even if they didn't offer them cheaply, I think the companies themselves want the data, right? I think Pizza Hut wants the data.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because, Pizza Hut, the restaurant, I assume has some crossover with like Pizza Hut, the delivery chain, right? Like I think they're separate entities, but they deliver, but they're like the same company, and so they'll probably have a ton of data about people who order food online, but then no data about people who eat in the restaurants. And they're thinking, let's try and get data on the restaurants so we know, just more information about people. But I dislike it tremendously.
Yeah, no.
Let's go back to cash only, all the time, everywhere.
Yeah, right. Oh, it is a nice life. Cash. I've been using cash a lot when I was.
I always
away.
do when I go away. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
nicer. Great. Yeah. Just being able to here you go, take this. I mean, it's a little bit, your wallet's a bit chunkier, but it is nice. The only downside is navigating foreign ATMs such that they don't convert from British pounds to the currency within the ATM.
Yeah.
I had this experience where I had to figure out how to get the ATM to take out euros so that the conversion was done with my bank, which was at a significantly better rate. It wasn't even, it was ridiculous. The difference. And
it's like your bank will give you €1 for 83 pence, and the ATM will give you €1 for £1.15.
Right, literally. I think the legit difference I got was €1.17 per pound with my bank, and €1.02 per pound in the ATM. So it was quite a big difference.
I never do this. I always, if I'm gonna, I do one or two things. I have a card that gives me I have a credit card that's 0% fee charged on conversion. So the bank just gives me whatever their conversion is for the day on the fee. So I either use that, or I'll just buy the currency before I leave and then take it with me and then pay that, and then turn it back when I get home or whatever, right? I've never used an ATM internationally. That sounds horrendous.
Yeah, it is quite something. The ones in the Czech Republic, very good. Czech Republic, well done with your ATMs. Yeah, shout out. I think we tried to do that when we were away, but I think we just ran out and we needed more cash because taxis as mainly taxis.
Sure,
take cash. In the UK, a lot of them take card these days, which is quite handy. I don't know if you've noticed this. The last time you've taken taxis these days, card machines in all taxis.
So I think that might be a city thing. I have
Ah.
taken Uber, obviously, and obviously you pay with
Hmm.
Uber ahead of time. But the taxi companies around here, I pay with cash. I have to pay with cash if I'm getting in a taxi that's not an Uber. I've yet to see a credit card machine appear in a taxi, which is wild. But no, for me, it's
Yeah.
still card, still cash only in most taxis.
Interesting. Very interesting.
But in a big city, I
So,
imagine if you want to compete with Uber, you've got to, right?
oh yeah, absolutely. That 100%. The black cabs are already on their way out. Like in terms of like the numbers now versus what they used to be. Apart from maybe London. So yeah, no,
I
definitely a
dislike the
lot
way that
better.
Uber does it though, man. I dislike the fact that um like with a normal taxi, if you want to cancel your order, you can just cancel your order, right? You can just cancel your ride. With Uber, they just charge you if you cancel it. You pay for it anyway, right? Like if it's depending on when you cancel, but like a lot of the times they'll still charge you for the ride.
Interesting. I've not had that experience in a long time. I used to. I used to pay when I cancelled Ubers. Recently, I mean, I've not been taking Ubers in the last few years as many times, as frequently as I used to. I used to take them all the time to get around.
Because it's a
But
feature, quote unquote, of Uber
yeah.
One. If you pay yearly for Uber One,
Ah,
you can get your free cancellations. But like if you don't pay, you just like, which I think is wild. Like I understand why they do it. Like if someone's already on the way to you, like it's a little unfair to have to cancel it. But like I don't know, from a consumer standpoint, I prefer to be able to just cancel it, right? A normal taxi
yeah,
company, they
no.
don't have your money. If you cancel the order, you cancel the order, right?
That is
But
interesting. That is very interesting. It goes back to the restaurant example, right? Paying before versus
yeah,
after.
yeah.
Yeah. The thing that used to be really bad with Uber is you wouldn't know how much it costs until after your journey.
Yeah,
They've
no.
changed it now so that you pay a fixed amount beforehand. They'll tell you your
Which
quote, you'll pay it.
that's why I'm the complete opposite here to where I am with restaurants. I much prefer Uber because I know ahead of time how much the fee is. Right? They tell you what it's going to cost, you pay it. And I think it's only in extreme circumstances where they might charge you more. If like
Hmm.
if there's like a I don't know collision and you've got to take like a 9 mile round trip diversion, they might charge you a lot more or whatever. But um, traditional taxi's still not like that, right?
Mm,
And like, I hate to be this guy because I think I want traditional taxis to win over Uber, right? I don't like the
yeah,
way that
yeah,
Uber works, right?
yeah.
Grinding down 0 hours employees until they're dust and paying them nothing, right? With zero
Hmm.
customer service and just, but at the same time, the number of times where you feel like you're getting scammed by a regular taxi because you'll take the same trip on like 4 different occasions in the same month and they'll charge you just seemingly random amounts, right?
Yeah.
It takes the same amount. You'll go on one trip, yeah, that's 4.25. Next time, yeah, that's £5. Next time, it's 3.75. Next time, it's £6. And I'm like, it's the same trip at the same time of day. It just seems like they're just pulling numbers. It's the same company. It seems like they're just pulling it
Yeah.
out of their backside, like whatever they think they can charge
Yeah.
at the time. And
Yeah.
oftentimes,
Yeah.
if you like, if I've been charged 3.75 and I go take the taxi again and they say it's £5, I'm like, oh, it was 3.75 last time. They go, oh yeah, no, 3.75, and then you pay them that and that's it. And I'm like, what? You're just trying to steal from me. Like,
Oh
I hate it, man.
dear. Yeah, that is quite nasty. That's where the digital
Ugh.
setup has kind of triumphed, right, over
Right.
over the analog, I guess, way of doing things. But no, that's quite nasty. That was quite nasty.
But there's like nowhere to know. They just tell you a number and that's the fee, right? I've
Yeah,
never been told ahead of
yeah.
time my fee for a taxi.
Yeah, the problem is if you ask them ahead of time, that immediately gives them leeway to quote a higher number.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, which is the problem, which I experienced last week actually. Like exactly how you described. One place to another, €20, right? Next time, exact company, same route. I made the mistake of asking them, they were like €25.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, well, they charged me €20 last time. They're like, oh no, it's different this time because you call the taxi company and we came to you. But then you do that the next day, and then you just give them €20. You don't even ask, and they'll take it. They'll be like, okay, see ya. So it's like it's literally
Yeah,
what
I
happens.
don't. Yeah, right. That's the thing. I feel like that's the case though, and I mean, like that's just I guess that's kind of how just capitalism works, right? Because it's like something
Mhm,
the product is worth what someone's willing to pay for it, right? If you're
mhm.
willing to pay £9 for the ride, then the ride is worth £9, right? If you're willing to pay £1.50 for the ride, then they're maybe not going to take you up on that offer. But like, because I feel the same way with like contractors, like when you try and hire someone to do a job, right? And it's
Oh
just
yeah.
like it's just so wild, right? Because it's just so irregulated, I guess, on not regulated, but like there's so much irregularity, I guess, because they're all like self-employed or they all work for different companies, and they'll just try and they'll charge different people the same different amounts for the same job, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is like, and I mean, like, maybe that's good, but like, it doesn't feel good when you're the one paying more, right?
Exactly.
But like at the same time, I guess is that a better system, right? Is it a better system if purchasers are like progressive in that people who can afford to pay more for a service, and people who can't afford to pay as much pay less for the same service, you know?
It is
Who
interesting,
knows?
isn't it? It is very interesting. And it reminds me of the subscription, like the online subscription problem, right? Where you threaten to cancel, you get a better deal. And the people who are loyal are paying more because they never threaten to cancel. And so they're
Yep.
always paying the standard amount, right?
Yep.
So, I mean,
there's even more egregious examples though, right? Like I was reading a thing a few years back about like the way mobile gaming works, in that just if you're on an iPhone, they charge you more. That if like they use multiple factors and they do dynamic pricing on like in-game microtransactions. So it's like if they think you're like a male between the ages of like 30 and 40, you know, they think you've got more money. And if you're like Tinder does this, you know, back when I used Tinder, you pay more if you're older for the same service, right? Like if you, and they count it as the way they get around it is, oh, it's a discount for young people. But really it's just, that's how they sell it. I don't know how that is allowed, right?
Yeah.
It seems like straight up age discrimination. But like, yeah, there's so many of those little things where it's like, and you know, I think, you know, microtransactions are the worst of it, right? Where they try and squeeze every length, like they bring you out to the maximum they possibly can, right? And it's like they take so many little factors because you know companies have so much data on you now, right? It's like, oh, if they're into this thing, or if they're this age, or if they, you know, have visited this site, or if they have this phone, or if they whatever it is, like what's a mobile provider, their carrier, you know. What battery percentage are they at? You know, all kinds of stuff that they can factor in. You know, are you out of battery? Do you need this purchase real bad, you know, to finish before you battery? Like, it's just, it's it feels bad. Feels bad, man.
Yeah, yeah. It goes back to the I think it's the saying, right? How much would you pay for a bottle of water if you were A, at home, B, at an event, or C, on fire, right?
Yeah, right.
And it's like, depending on the current situation that the customer is in, you could have the same product and you'd be able to charge different prices depending on the needs. And it's just, yeah, it's pretty nasty.
Which I think, linking it back to what we talked about multiple episodes ago, is what the supermarkets are wanting to do, right? The supermarkets, people think, oh, I'm just going to sign up for the card. And I'm ringing on this again. They sign up for the card because like, I want to save money. I don't care if they have my data. But I think in doing that, when everyone does it, it actually ends up making things more expensive. Because what the supermarket does is they just, the price for everything becomes super high, right? And then if you have the card, you get a discount, potentially. But then they also send you personalized offers to where it's like, oh, for you and only you can have, because what they do is they track and they see how much you're willing to pay for that bag of Doritos. And over time, they'll test you, right? So the price is maybe £1.50 for the bag of Doritos. But then everyone gets these cards and suddenly the price is £3, right? But they'll give you a discount if you have the card and it's back to £1.50. But then the price, the discount price goes away, and suddenly it's, oh, you personally get a discount offer. If you scan your QR code, we'll give you for £1.75. Do you buy them? If you do, next time we'll give him a £2. Oh, he didn't buy him at £2, but he did at £1.75, so we'll give him the offer at £1.75. He thinks he's getting a discount because it used to be £3, but really it should have been £1.50, right? Because the way supermarkets used to work is you have to balance out this need to try and milk the people who have the most money with trying to get sales for the majority of people who don't have as much money, right? And so the price kind of equalizes. But whereas when you can individually target price for every single person, you can then suddenly just raise the price so that the people who can afford it will pay the most, but then you can get the maximum out of every single individual person and maximize profits. And so I think eventually the price ends up going up for everybody and you don't actually save any money and you've given all your data away. I think it's just, I think it's bad.
Yeah. From a consumer perspective, this is the problem with data, isn't it? It is the problem with data.
Yep.
Money. You're going to be giving more money away. It's nasty. It was a breath of fresh air going to supermarkets in Europe and fixed price for everything, right? And you just take what you want and you pay it and you're out, and it's all reasonable. But yeah, here it's pretty nasty, man. Pretty nasty.
And like, if it was to, if I don't know, if we lived in a perfect world and the idea was that those who had more paid more and those who had less paid less for the same product, fine, right? paying like by their means, you end up in this like kind of like weird, almost socialist, communist, almost like system, right? But that's not what it is, right? They might argue that, but I think the reality is that they just use it to try and maximize their own profits, right? The
Mm-hmm.
supermarket they don't lower the prices for people who can't afford it and charge people who can afford it more. They just charge everybody the maximum they think they're willing to pay, right?
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
But
Exactly.
maybe that's the purest form of capitalism. Maybe that's how it's supposed to be. You
Yeah.
know, if you're willing to
Yeah.
pay it, then that's the price it should be, right? If I'm willing to pay
Yeah.
£6 for a bag of Doritos, maybe I should be paying £6 for a bag of Doritos. You know, like, or if I'm only willing, who knows? Who knows?
It's the late stage. It's the late stage capitalism, peeps. It's the $100 bananas.
I don't know what
guys.
the solution to the problem is, but like, I don't like it.
And then you see in the news articles, supermarket chain X record profits in the year to date 2023, and you're like, for God's sake,
we've got to put the prices up, guys, to match inflation. Otherwise, we're going to go out of business. It has to be done. Don't worry about the super high bonuses. Our CEO needs 4.8 million in bonuses this year. All right?
Yeah.
How is he going to afford his avocado toast without it?
yeah, exactly. Oh dear. And who said we weren't? And we told you, peeps, at the beginning of this podcast, we were going to be bringing everyone back down to earth. So here we are. Oh man.
In other news, man. For those who don't know, I make YouTube videos for a living.
You do.
On the internet. I doubt anyone watching this doesn't know that, but if you don't, that's what I do. And for the longest time, I'm assuming you've noticed this on YouTube. You'll see this thing where a video will pop up, you'll watch the video, right? And then later you'll go back to your homepage and you'll see what you think is a different video, but then when you click on it, it's the same video, right?
I noticed it today. I've noticed this today, right? Yeah.
So the reason you might have noticed it now is that I think before they were doing a small kind of test with only the biggest creators for what is known as like A/B testing on thumbnails. The idea being that you upload 2 thumbnails. Well, some content creators, I think, just do it on their own, where they'll upload a video, give it a thumbnail, see how it does for a day, and then change the thumbnail and see how it does for another day. Because they're trying to maximize what they call the click-through rate, which is the number, like the percentage of people who click on the video out of the percentage of people who are shown the video. So if 100 people are shown the video on their homepage and only 6 people click on it, that's a 6% click-through rate. YouTubers want to maximize their click-through rate because a higher click-through rate means that more people are going to see. YouTube will then show the video to more people because more people are going to click on it and it's a popular video. So now, though, recently, YouTube has broadened their bracket. I don't know if it's open to everybody or just select YouTube partners, but I now have access to built-in A/B testing, right? Not even just A/B testing, I have ABC testing, right? So when I go to upload a video now, YouTube's like, hey, do you want to upload 3 different thumbnails for this video? And we will randomly show those 3 thumbnails to people. And then after, I think they do it for like a day. And then after that day, we will pick the one that maximized watch time and use that one going forward. How do you feel about this practice, Nick, in general?
Okay. So I think, like you've mentioned, a lot of YouTubers were doing this manually. So they would create 3 different thumbnails and draft 3 different titles. And they would show one, see how the video performed, change it, see if the video either performed better, worse, or stayed the same, change it again and make the same, analysis. And then they go from there, right? I have noticed this for the past couple years with some select YouTubers that I am subscribed to. I was at a event being held by Adobe like 2 years ago, right? And there was a big talk on A/B testing. So I think Adobe have this platform that large commercial corporations can use for e-commerce, right? They can like plug this Adobe thing into their e-commerce platform. And one of and this big talk was on A/B testing. So what they were talking about was, hey, using this, put 2 product thumbnails in, 2 product titles in, and what we will do is we will show half of your page visitors one and the other half the other, and we'll measure the rate, the click-through rate. Yeah, exactly. And the purchase, any purchasing that's done, after that. And the sales numbers. And then what they'll do is they'll change the ratio of how many people are shown which product picture and description, depending on which one's doing better. And I saw that and I was like, wow, that's quite interesting. But then I didn't really think about it much afterwards. But yeah, like you mentioned, I have noticed this change recently, like more than usual. And that makes sense if it's because of this. And the thing is, man, I'm not against it at all. I guess it's because I have like a lot of exposure to the creator side.
Yeah.
And obviously, as a result of that, I am like aware of creators wanting to maximize profits and stuff, right?
Yeah,
But
we should clarify, Nick and I have also been making YouTube videos for like 10 years now, right? So we are on this side. As a creator, I like it, right? I like the option to do it. As a viewer, I dislike it, right? I don't hate it. It's not like I'm like, I think they should remove the feature, but I dislike, I don't know, like I just like seeing a video, clicking on it, and then seeing what looks like a new video, clicking on that, and then being like, oh no, this is the same video. That's like a feel bad experience. Not to the point where I'm like, I'm gonna stop using YouTube as a platform, but just like I think it's one of those little things that just kind of, I don't know. I think as a creator I like it, but also as a creator, I think it might kind of drive a tiny bit of resentment in the users, right? When they click the same video and they're like, oh, this is not a new video. I feel like I've been duped in a little way, right? Also, I don't know, maybe my thumbnails were too similar. I tried this on an episode, but a follow-up problem with this is that like I don't have time to make I post videos every day. I don't have time to make 3 separate thumbnails to test for every single video. I'm sure I could try and maximize revenue if I did, but I tried this with episode 1 of a new series, right? And I think maybe the thumbnails were too similar. Maybe it doesn't make, like, the differences in my thumbnails maybe were too much the same, because I tested 3 thumbnails. And the watch times, it gives me a watch time breakdown. I'll send you a screenshot here, man. The watch time breakdowns that I got were 36%, 32%, and 32%. So it kind of just, they were very similar. There was one winner thumbnail, which was the one that I'd kind of decided as the main thumbnail anyway. But you can see there the breakdown of what each thumbnail got, and it just they were very similar. To be fair, they're fairly similar thumbnails, but I didn't know. Maybe I should have done more drastically different thumbnails, like maybe different colors, to try and, because my thumbnails are all somewhat similar color palettes, somewhat similar designs. Maybe I should have gone with like, big bold changes to really try and maximize the difference. But
yeah. So the example I saw this morning, I was subscribed to a channel. A few days ago, I saw a video title, right? And I thought, oh, that's really interesting. I'm gonna watch that, when I get home. So I watched it today, and the title was completely different.
Yeah,
I think the thumbnail was relatively similar, but the title was completely different. Because I was subscribed.
I hate when they do that on like, a lot of videos these days are already like somewhat clickbaity titles, and then I don't mind if they change the thumbnail but keep the title the same, because then you can kind of check. But if it's already a somewhat clickbaity title that's not quite, that's like somewhat vague, and then they change it to a somewhat different clickbaity title that makes it seem like a completely new video, I dislike that big time.
Yeah, no, you are right. I think if I wasn't subscribed to this channel, I would have thought it was a different video, but because I knew what I was looking for, it was what I thought it was. The thing is, right, is that I see a lot of videos that have very, very basic thumbnails and titles.
Yeah.
Freaking millions of views.
Yeah.
Ungodly amounts of views.
Yeah.
A lot of them that I see are like, I've been recommended these a lot recently. Interviews of criminals after they've been caught.
People love the crime stuff,
It's just a picture of them in an interview room, no editing, right? And just title without, like the unofficial correct way to do a title is to capitalize the start of every word. This is like start of the title is capitalized, rest of it is all lowercase.
They've written it how you would normally write something,
exactly. 6 million views. 6 million views. Which I find quite funny. And sometimes, there's this whole argument to be made of, obviously it depends on the content, but sometimes honesty is the best way to capture people. I know obviously it's different with different things, depending on what kind of content you create.
I think it's kind of because just like good videos, YouTube, people like to rank on the algorithm, but I think YouTube's pretty good at showing good videos to people, right?
Yeah.
If your video is good, like you said, even if the thumbnail is garbage and even if the title's garbage may be another word. If they fully messed it up, if it was just like a black box for a thumbnail and no title, then it might not go showed somewhere. But like so long as your thumbnail and video title are good enough, if the video is good, like if people click on it and watch it throughout, YouTube's going to show it to people, right? YouTube's going to pump it out there. I think that, like, the worse the content is, the more you have to, like, jazz it up. Right? The more you have to jazz up the thumbnail, jazz up the title, really try and make it like, whoa, you're not going to believe this, to try and bring people in to watch something that they otherwise wouldn't have watched. Right? And, like, I get it. I respect the hustle, but, like, I think that's the setup, right? I think that the videos you're talking about are just, like, good, interesting videos that people are kind of somewhat naturally inclined to watch. I think people have, like, this inclination. There's a reason, like, true crime videos do so well and series, because people have this inclination to see what makes the outliers of humanity tick, like why they did what they did, right? That kind of feeling. And so I think that's why those videos do well. But, like, you know, somebody trying to eat 8,000 calories worth of KFC in one sitting, like, you've got to jazz that up, because, like, otherwise people could be like, why am I going to watch that? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, especially if it's a saturated content type, right?
Oh,
if there's another
100%,
5,000 people doing that exact same thing, then that promotes.
If you're about to post your iPhone 15 wrap-up video letting you know what happened in the Apple event, you got to make yours stand out. You won't believe what they did to the lightning port. Crazy.
100%. Exactly.
Big question mark, red arrow pointing at the lightning port, you know.
It reminds me of all the Forbes articles, man, that I see on Google these days. Jesus Christ.
Top 10 new features.
Oh no, don't do it. My comment was going to be,
Sorry,
I was going to say, we'll move on to that in a minute. The implementation of this ABC testing is quite interesting, right? So what you just said was, you upload up to three thumbnails, up to 3 titles, and it cycles between them for a viewer. When you first brought this up, what I thought they'd do, and I think this is what Adobe talked about a couple years ago, and I think is what Netflix do as well, might be wrong there, is they just show different thumbnails and titles to different users, and that user will always see that thumbnail and title. And then what they'll do is they'll measure the rates of click-through, right? And then they will show the more popular thumbnail and title to the next people. And then those people will always then just see that thumbnail. And then, you know, if that continues to gain popularity, people that then see any thumbnail and title at all will see that one. And then, you know, if a user just for testing again is shown one of the ones that weren't performing as well, they still only see that. And then they, you know, you kind of get this curve,
which I think is a better system. If they're just going to show like one different, like if they took the 3 thumbnails I gave and then like divided it up between the people who are going to watch it. But then I guess doing that, you minimize, like you potentially minimize viewership, right? Because then, like, if one of your thumbnails is real bad, the people who would have watched the video but the thumbnail is bad now won't, because they don't see all the thumbnails. Netflix definitely shows different thumbnails for different people for the same person.
Okay.
I don't know if like I notice it all the time. The thing is, and they do it so fast. I will be on the continue watching on the For You section on Netflix, right? Tick down, tick back up, thumbnails changed for the same TV show. Even if you scroll across, like you scroll sideways on Netflix, when it carousels back round, by the time it gets back to the beginning, different thumbnail for the same TV show. Like they're trying to get you to. I don't know. I don't know for Netflix why they care, because Netflix isn't paid for like on watch time. So I don't know why they care so much about what I watch. I guess they want me to watch because I assume they have data that the more somebody watches in terms of watch hours, the more likely they are to keep their subscription. And that's probably why they're trying to convince you to watch something as opposed to leave and think, there's nothing on Netflix, so I'm not going to bother with it. But no, it's interesting that A/B testing is kind of everywhere, right?
Yeah,
and it's also the same A/B testing that the supermarkets are doing, right? When they test different price points, they're seeing what is best, and
That is very interesting. That's very. The dating apps used to do it as well. You know, do you remember on Tinder you'd put like the setting on that like
pick your best
it
photo.
would pick your best photo. Yeah,
put it first,
it would actually do A/B testing for your photos. I always thought that was...
it's never the photo you pick. The photo one you pick to go first is never the one that actually gets the most right swipes. It's always like a rogue
the worst
photo
one, right?
that you're like, but that one is always the one they're putting up front and gets the swipes, man.
Right, exactly. You turn it on, it just goes to zero, right? But
Yeah,
yeah, I
no.
think Netflix were like the big pioneers of A/B testing. I remember years ago when I started to see like stuff about them doing that, and now like you say, you kind of see everyone doing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, very interesting stuff, Isaac. Very interesting stuff. And you mentioned the iPhone 15, and I very quickly looked at the highlights of this on the toilet this morning, because I thought
I
that might be a topic in this podcast, and also I was curious. But yeah, shoot.
Well, I meant to watch the keynote yesterday, but I was streaming, and then afterwards it was only like 10 p.m. last night when I was like, oh yeah, that was today. I forgot about that, and I quickly did what you did and just kind of skimmed through the updates because like it looks very underwhelming. I think
Yeah,
in terms of new
yeah.
updates,
Mm-hmm.
they've got
Mm-hmm.
the new iPhone has like USB-C. They're finally making that change, which is like cool. I think it's a big old slap in the teeth that the Pro models don't have Thunderbolt. That is wild. I think. Like the Pro
Yeah,
iPads have Thunderbolt. I feel like the only
yeah,
reason they do that is so that next year they can sell Thunderbolt on the Pro iPhones, right? It's already comical how slow Lightning is for transferring files. It's laughable. Like you can record like 8K ProRes uncompressed video onto your 1 terabyte iPhone, right? And you can get these 100 gig file sizes, and it will take you days to transfer that over USB 2 via the Lightning connector, right? And so I felt like they should have just gone for 40 gigabits per second Thunderbolt on the Pro model, at the very least. They haven't. They've gone with just like standard USB 3, which is like 20 gigabits per second. But still, I just don't know why they didn't do that. But other than that, I think there's
yeah.
basically no massive updates, right? The chip's
No,
new.
not really. Yeah, chips
The
new, bezels are a bit thinner, it's a bit lighter.
It's
The battery
titanium
life is a bit better.
now.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
advertising that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Go on.
I was gonna say that
You got thoughts on the
uh
USB-C port?
the USB. I think there's probably a video of me saying in one of our Minecraft playthroughs from a few months ago that I thought it would have Thunderbolt. Right.
Yeah.
That's how they differentiate the pros and the regulars. They
Like
still
I said,
have
the
changed the
Pro iPad
speeds.
has Thunderbolt, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that is quite a interesting move. But you are right. They'll have their Excel spreadsheet with the roadmap of every single iPhone for the next 4 years, right? And they'll be like, what do we iterate for the next one? What do we iterate? What
Yeah.
technology do we already have that we will iterate for the next one? And that, you're right, will probably be a next year thing.
So
But yeah, I thought it was all right.
I'm not going to buy. I've got an iPhone 14.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to buy a 15 Pro Max, whatever,
Mm,
because like the USB-C change is not worth it, right? I don't
mm,
record video on my phone, so like if I did
mm.
record video on my phone, the transfer speeds, like if I did it for work, the transfer speeds would probably be worth buying the phone in itself. The other thing though, man, the colors on the Pro phones are
Terrible.
garbage. They're so bad.
So
They've
bad.
got four options that are all grey.
Yeah.
They've got 4 shades of
Yeah.
grey. You can get black grey, white grey, blue grey, or like titanium grey. And I'm just like,
It's real bad.
why are they so bad? Like, I quite like the purple, which is what I have here on the
It's
old
a good
14,
color.
right?
It's a good color.
nice
Yeah.
color. Like, it's still a little grey, but like the blue of the new phone looks like the 12 again. The 12 Pro
Right.
Max was
Like
also a
here's
dark blue.
the 13 blue. Loved it.
I like
right.
it.
Such
It's
a nice
great
little
blue.
baby color.
Yeah, it's like Sierra blue, right? And it's lovely.
That's it. So
But
yeah, it's interesting.
I don't know why they've done blue again. Because the 12 Pro
Yeah.
Max had blue, the 13 Pro had blue, the 14 had purple, and then the 15's back to blue. I don't.
And the 12's blue was really deep and nice as well.
Yeah.
This one's kind of dull, right? So
It's almost grey, yeah.
yeah. So my dad is getting one of these because he has the 10S Max, right? So his phone's 5 years old, basically, and he basically said, "Okay, I'll get whatever comes out this year." So I sent him a screenshot this morning of the colors, right? And he said, "Is there any more colors?"
Yeah.
He thought I just said like the first color palette, right? And he was like, "Oh, I was like, no."
Maybe he needs to get a 15 non-pro, you know, man. Like a 15
I
plus if he
was
wants a big one.
considering that. Yeah,
They've got
I did think
better
that.
like pastel colors on. Like, I don't know if you've seen the colors for the 15. The 15 actually has some nicer looking colors. They're much more pastel. They're less pro looking. They've got like a blue, a green, a yellow, a pink, and a black. But like, man, I don't know. It's the colors on the Pro phones are just, they're so uninspired and they're so just bleh.
Yeah.
I saw leaks about like this cool looking orange iPhone 15 Pro
Hmm.
that had like a dark kind of iPhone 15 Pro orange leak. Let me have a look.
I mean, where's the red? Where's like the nice deep red?
They'll do a
Right?
mid-cycle refresh, right?
Oh, they will. I forgot they do those.
Yeah,
They'll
right.
probably introduce something like that one day. I am looking at the 15 colors now. Yeah, they're quite nice.
Yeah, they're a lot nicer, right? Yeah, I saw
Mhm.
leaks like this. I'm showing you a screenshot here of like orange-looking Pro Max phones that I thought looked kind of cool. I'd be into an orange-looking one.
Oh, yeah, I like that. I do
But
like
like,
that.
yeah, right. It's kind of closer to the top you're wearing. But
Yeah.
but like, you know what I mean? If they did something similar to the purple or the Sierra Blue, where it's just like a little bit of an orange tint, like you say, almost ready. Like, but no, they
Yeah, well,
and
the thing is, right?
yeah,
They always do a highlight color, right? So the 13 was the blue I have, the 14 Pro was the blue, the purple that you
purple.
have,
Yep,
and the color this year
is
is this
blue,
like
right?
off-white, I
Oh,
think.
is it?
Is it they call it natural? Is it that one?
So
The
there's
like
one that's called titanium, I think, this time. Like they've got
right.
just like a titanium color, I think. So they've got, hold on. Yeah, they've got natural
Oh
titanium,
yeah.
but then the blue is also
Yes.
not a normal color. Like they don't normally just have a blue. Like that is also there now as well. They've got natural titanium, blue titanium, white titanium, and black titanium, right? And it's black, white, gray, blue, and just gray, right? Those are the four colors that they have. And I think I think they're missing a market here, man.
Yeah, it's quite uninspired, isn't it? It
Like
is
I think they
quite
want them to be
uninspired.
like sophisticated, but at the same time, I
Hmm.
just think, yeah. And I think
Yeah.
the big thing that they're gonna I think they're gonna sell less of these. And I think the huge thing, which is such a stupid reason, but I think it drives a lot of sales. You can't tell the difference physically, visually, between the 14 Pro Max and the 15 Pro Max, right? I think
Yeah.
a lot of people will have bought the 14 because it had the dynamic island. And you can tell just by looking at the phone that somebody has the new phone, right? And or you can tell by the camera cut out on the back that somebody has a Pro. I think a lot of people will base their purchases on the fact that it's like a symbol, right? That you have the new iPhone. But with
Hmm.
the new iPhones, there's no change, right?
No, that's it. That's it, right? That is it. With the 13 Pro, the cameras became huge,
Yeah.
right? The 14, like you say, the dynamic island came in. With the 12, the shape changed.
Yeah. You get the
With
notch
the
on one of them as well.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, with the
Like
13,
the
the notch
only
became
difference
smaller.
is the port. And looking at the bottom of the phone, I don't think you'd be able to tell. Like, the average person would know, looking at just the port, whether it's Lightning or USB. Like
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
think they'd be able to tell
exactly.
the difference.
Exactly. So it is interesting. I'm not going to get one this year.
Yeah.
I've mentioned this a few times. My cadence for phones is usually 3 years. So I think next year I'll probably get whatever comes out. Not that there's anything wrong with my phone, but
That's
the
the thing.
only thing is the battery's going slightly, but that's just my own heavy use.
I think it
And
depends, right? I think phones
mhm,
are getting better and better to the point where like the cadence can just get longer and longer, right? Like
yeah,
what used to be like a yearly thing could be like 2 years and then 3 years. And then, honestly, now, like you say, the fact that your dad's got a 5-year-old phone that is still getting updates from Apple, right? Like
yeah,
and it works,
yeah,
you know, it's
yeah. It's fine. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
right.
fine. I think the main thing with that is the battery is pretty dire now.
Yeah.
I think the only reason I would be swayed to switch my phone this year is not a big enough reason for me to actually do it is when on cellular internet, sometimes the phone just drains its battery trying to get signal,
Yeah.
like without any kind of input from the user. Like it will just try and be connecting to some kind of cellular internet, and
I
the
think
battery life will just
I
drop
think
in front of you.
I think you can rectify that mostly by turning off 5G. I think 5G is the big killer on your battery.
Yeah, so that's an interesting thing, right? Because there is a setting now that basically says the phone will see how much power is being used, and if 5G is draining it, it will switch to 4G.
Yeah.
There are some zones where I'm just in 4G areas and it will just drain. So I don't know
Huh.
if it's like because I'm inside and it's trying to get more of a signal because I'm inside or something like that. I think that's something they've changed. I want to say maybe on yours, but I think I've definitely seen it on the 15 series. Is that they've changed certain chipsets and optimized basically to stop that from happening. I think that's quite good, but to be honest, it's not a big of a reason for me to change my whole phone, and spend
The
a grand on, right?
the action button, that's not going to sell you on an
Oh
iPhone
yeah, the
15 Pro.
action button.
I am kind of
No,
annoyed that they've gotten rid of the mute toggle,
the
the
little
silent
switch. Yeah,
toggle.
I like the silent
I like the
toggle. It's
switch,
nice.
right? Like,
It's good.
so they've replaced it with a new like multi-function button that you can. I think by default it's probably set to the same like silent, unsilent thing. But I like to be able to see at a glance that my phone is on silent, right? Without having to like with the action button. I guess you'd know but then you have to press it to turn it off and to press it again to turn it back on. I like the fact that they've got like an action button that I assume can be mapped to like whatever you want or almost whatever you want. But I don't know. I like the toggle as well, man. And so
yeah. I was doing a thought experiment this morning. I was like, what would I toggle it to, right?
Yeah.
And there was nothing that I could think of where I can't access that feature by like a swipe and a tap, because all my main apps are on my home screen, right? The first screen when I unlock. So I was like, oh, I actually don't know what I toggle it to. And if I toggle it to something, I probably wouldn't use it.
Yeah. I mean, like, if you take a lot of photos, it'd make the camera app nanoseconds faster to get to. But, like, even then, like you say, it's not hard to get to the camera app, right? From the lock screen, you can just press the button for camera and it's there, right? Especially with the 14's got the always on display, right? So it's you press the button, it's, you know, the camera's just right there. There's an on-screen button that's always available. So yeah, I don't know. The 15, I mean, I get it that, you know, time goes on and it gets harder and harder to iterate on a new phone, right? To differentiate at all. But I was expecting more from this cycle. You know, I think they could have done more. Still no 120 hertz on the 15, only on the Pros.
No,
They're keeping that, which is wild. Like, I get it. They've called it ProMotion. I think they're just going to keep it on the Pro phones probably forever. But the fact that the regular iPhone costs like £900 and doesn't have a 120 hertz screen in 2023 is crazy.
Right? Like, even 90 would be good.
Yeah.
Even 90 would be better, but 60 is like, it's 60 is only usable if you've never had a phone that has anything higher. If you're coming from Android and you've got, you know, 90 to 144 hertz displays, or you've used a Pro iPhone, I don't think you can go down. But if you're upgrading from like an older iPhone to just the 15, so you're upgrading from like a 12 or below to a 15, I think then you'll be fine. But yeah, that is right. Like, it is quite mad that they haven't switched yet, but they'll sell them, right? Because there's the three like customers: the ones that just want the best one, the ones that want the cheapest of the good ones, aka the full screened ones, or the ones that just want the cheapest iPhone that Apple sell. And then they've got those three different segments, and those people will just buy it, right?
I'll give them props.
And they know,
I'll give them props. The price hasn't gone up. The price is the same.
That is good. Have you noticed?
The Pro Max only comes in 256 minimum,
or above. Yeah, I saw the starting price and I was like, Jesus, that's quite high. And I clicked on it and it was 256 minimum, and I was like, oh, I mean, they are milking more money out of you because it doesn't cost them £100 for 256 gigs against 128, right? So they're making that extra margin no matter what.
Only on the Max.
On the Max,
the regular Pro can get 128.
128.
See, I had the other, so mine, I paid for the 256 gig bump on mine. And so when I saw it, I was like, oh, it's the same price. But then it was only when I clicked on it and noticed that there was no 128 option, I realized that it has actually gone up, but only because you're now on the Pro Max, you're locked into buying at least 256 gigs of storage. But there were rumors of like a big price increase on the, not a big price increase, but like an extra £100 on all models.
Which would have been nasty. That would have been really horrible.
But at the same time, like, to be fair, they're releasing, it's almost the iPhone 14 Pro Max and Pro again, but just with a USB-C port, right? Like, they're changing very little. I feel like that's probably
it's not warranted.
I think the camera I saw a post on Reddit. The camera might be identical on the Pro Max, and the setup is like identical. I don't think they've changed the camera from the 14 Pro to the 14 Pro Max. There's like this new zoom, 120
the 5x zoom camera, right? I think I saw something about that. But
I saw a screenshot of like the specs of both cameras, and they were the same, like same aperture, same megapixel, same everything. So I mean, it's a very small upgrade year on year with this iPhone, and maybe that's just where we're going, man. Maybe they're all going to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller.
Like you say, there's not much more they can do these days. I
guess it's like expecting. Yeah, it's like expecting TVs to come up with leaps and bounds of new tech every year, right? Which they've done a surprisingly good job of doing, I think, TVs. Like, there's still new tech being developed, but like, I guess you don't really expect, you know, LG's new OLED to be like massively crazy different from the last year, right? Like, it's still a flat panel that shows you images. You know, they go like, oh yeah, it's got 15% improved brightness, and you know the
Hmm.
responsiveness is 8 milliseconds faster, and yeah. But I guess
Yeah,
you
I
know,
think
yeah,
I think it will be like TVs where when your TV breaks or you need a new one, you get whatever's available at the time. And because that's iterated in small increments over the last 6 years,
yeah,
it seems significantly better. That's part of the
yeah,
reason why I only like to switch my phone like every 3 to 4 years, is because then I'll, even if there's been small increments along the way, when I switch it out, it will be significantly better, right? Um, which I quite like. So I think that will be, I think that's what most people do with phones
yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
Um,
And I think
Apart
it kind of
from
go
the
on.
contracts, the monthly 2 year monthly contract, 0% peeps.
Yeah, the ones who are
Um,
just upgrade it. They're always paying for a phone, and it's just
exactly,
always the new one. Yeah, yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and then they'll have their like 1 or 2 year cadence. But
It's
yeah,
interesting though,
no,
because I feel like it's the same with like all technology now, right? Even I'm thinking of games consoles, right? Like the earlier games consoles, jumping from like a PlayStation 1 to a PlayStation 2, new stuff, new features, new everything, right? You know, you got 3D coming in, you got so much stuff, and then you go from 2 to 3, and the controller's changing, and they've got like, you know, and 3 to 4, and they've got a lot of changes that happens. But then like the PS4 to the PS5 or the Xbox One to the Xbox One X or the Xbox Series X now. Microsoft, your naming for the Xbox consoles is
terrible.
garbage. But the changes are minuscule, right? Because it's just faster hardware, right? Like the PS4 to the PS5, the controller is hardly different, right? Like the DualShock 5 is cool. I like the triggers on it. That's a nifty feature. But for the most part, the console itself is just the same thing, but just faster, right? It's a box with a disc, or not a disc, I guess, if you get that
Yeah.
one, that is just faster graphics card, faster CPU, faster storage. That's it, right? And like the PlayStation 6 is probably going to be more of the same. I can't imagine what they're going to change on the controller, really. You know, you got these small iterations. And I'm kind of wondering, though, like, I feel like for the last, ooh, I don't know, 50 years? I'm trying to think of like when, yeah, I think 50 years is fair, right? Because I think like when the TV wasn't invented that long ago, right? When was the TV
I
invented?
think they became more prevalent after the Second World War, right?
Yeah, right.
In households,
It
because it
says
was all radio based during the wars.
yeah, it says 1927 is when it was invented. But yeah, like you said, so probably like 50s when it starts becoming widespread, right? And you've
Hmm.
got kind of this period between the 50s and maybe like the early 2000s where it seems like technology was changing very quickly, right? At hardware level, stuff was changing rapidly. And then now, it doesn't really feel that way. Maybe it's because we're living in it that it doesn't feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you are right. Because I've had this thought with my laptop. So I've got a 2016 MacBook Pro, right?
Yeah.
And no, we're in the year 2023 now. So this October, so next month, it will be 6 years since the model that I have was launched, right? And I look at the model I have and I look at the currently sold model, and the difference in power and specs is pretty big, right? But the design, um, mine is thinner and has like the touch bar, right? It's got a whole ass screen that isn't there anymore. Obviously, because that was due to market data and people not using it and stuff. But if you showed people in 2005 the new one and my one, let's take the display itself out of the equation because the new
Yeah.
one's display is so much better.
Hmm.
People would think that the one that I have is newer because
Yeah.
it's thinner, lighter,
Yeah, right?
and it's got a second screen, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Above the
Yeah.
keyboard, which is super interesting.
Yeah.
And then I thought, okay, if I went from 2016 to 2009, right, to 7 years prior to that, the difference would be insane in the
Right.
laptop MacBook Pro that was sold in 2009, which I think a few people I knew at uni had, and they were like big, chunky, like disk drive, like big bezels, like kind of setups, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a massive example. The other one is so we get the phones, right? So 2023 to 2017, let's go, right? So let's go 6 years back. To when the iPhone 10/X was released, right? You look at that, and then you look at the 14 Pro, and you think, oh, yeah, that seems about right. right? That looks, like quite a few years worth of improvement. But if you look from 2017 to 2011, where I think in 2011, what did I have? I think it was one of those Nokia phones that like you flipped horizontally and it had a key, like a full QWERTY keyboard. And that's
Yeah.
when everyone was on Blackberries, right? You think, holy crap, like the difference here between phones in 2011 and 2017 is massive. I still
Yeah.
remember in 2017, 18, when I've got a OnePlus 6, which was one of the first generations of phones to have like a full display that took up most of the front of the phone. So
Yes.
many people were like, whoa, that screen looks crazy. That screen looks crazy. But now
Yeah,
it's just,
right.
there's been no further improvement really from then until now.
Yeah.
Obviously, because there's not much more that you can improve, right? Apart from the
Yeah.
folding stuff, which is its
That's the
own niche.
That's the thing. I don't know. I guess you have this accelerating effect, right? Where, like you say, from the 50s to the 2000s, right? There's iteration and there's change that's potentially slower, right? And then, but
Mm-hmm.
like it gets, as time goes on, it gets faster and faster and faster and faster and faster, right? Until you're at a point, I guess now, well, not even now, 10 years ago, maybe, maybe 5 years ago, where the hardware was kind of peaked, I guess, right? And there's been this massive shift to software, right? Everything, all the focus now is on the software, less so on the hardware, right? As exemplified
Yeah.
by the fact that the iPhone from 5 years ago looks exactly the same, right? There's no, like, the iPhone 12 Pro Max looks the same. If you gave it to a stranger from 10 years ago and didn't let them turn it on, they might think it's the same phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, it's interesting. I'm just wondering, like, I don't know. I'm wondering if there's going to be like a different like hardware revolution, or if we've just kind of we've lived through this bizarre time where there was all of this change, and now suddenly it's just like maybe plateaued a bit, or is going to plateau for a bit.
Yeah, there is the small vocal minority that is a minority right now that think it might become AR based, right? Where
Yeah,
everyone with
sure.
AR, but then like obviously the majority of people say that's not going to happen, right? Like it's
Yeah.
too outlandish to have something on your face. But then 10 years in the future, who knows, right? It's hard to
Yeah.
tell.
It's real tricky. Like I can definitely see a world where it happens, right? Because I can definitely see the
Hmm.
benefits to having like a computer integrated into what you see in the world. But like, I mean, it sounds scary as all hell. But at the
Yeah,
same time,
yeah.
like I can also see the benefits of that, right? Like the ability to magnify something at will. You know what I mean? If you're looking at like even at just little things, like trying to look at a price on something, and the ability for the whatever's attached to you to just kind of make it bigger so you can see it, right? And then
Hmm.
make it smaller again. Little things like that I could see, or like you said, be able to translate signs on the fly. You're in a foreign country,
Yeah,
you're trying to read the
yeah,
signs, it just
yeah.
translates it for you. You can see it to your eyes, it looks normal. I can see this kind of hybrid AR thing taking off, but like you've got such an uphill battle because of the fact that you need like an overwhelming majority of people to be on board with it before most people are willing to walk around wearing AR headsets in any way, shape, or form,
Yeah.
or even like a little augments, right? And trying to get people to do that initially, not even to mention like privacy concerns, which people are going to have in droves. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, phones have already become such a invasion of privacy in terms of the amount of stuff that's recorded and put on social media, right?
Yeah,
Like
right. Yeah.
now you don't even have to pull your phone out and press the camera button or open Snapchat or Instagram or whatever and start recording, right? It's just boop, done,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So there's that whole thing to get over as well. And then, you have the whole regulation thing that might come into play, and all of that. I think maybe like a left field, it's not left field, but something else that might become really integrated into the stuff we use every day is AI, right? It's already happening. It's like the deeper AI integration into everything we use, and very personalized features, and having assistants effectively that can do things for you, and maybe like you say, that's tied into the software part of it all.
It is,
But
yeah.
yeah,
Because
that
I
that
mean,
could be something.
you are right, and AI has been, obviously AI is a buzzword right now, right? And
Hmm.
in the current zeitgeist, AI equals ChatGPT, right? Which
Yeah.
is not the beginning and end of AI by any stretch of the imagination, but that's currently what AI means, right, to the world at large.
Hmm.
But like, as an example of it being all about software, smartphone companies have kind of almost given up on making the cameras in their phones physically better.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
of the tech over the last years has been using AI to make pictures better, right? You take the photo, and then your phone very quickly utilizes AI tech to try and make the photo look as good as it can before it shows it to you. And you see it happen sometimes. You'll take a photo, it'll like, oh, that looks terrible, and it'll go click, and it looks great,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
In
yeah.
a second, it flips,
Hmm.
and it's like, oh, okay, wow, that's odd. But yeah, no, for sure, there's like little bits like that work in the background. But I don't know. It's interesting. I'm wondering if I'm just wondering if there's gonna be like like it feels intuitive, like there must be new tech coming, but at the same time, I don't know. It feels like it's been a long time. Maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like it's been a long time since like a big new piece of tech that people feel like they need to have, right? You know, there's been the whole VR wave that
Yeah,
was like very, I say wave, it's almost a blip because so many people have like maybe tried it, but like so many people don't have it, right? And so, yeah, I don't know. I think it's gonna be interesting, you know.
very interesting. Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll have to look out and see.
Yeah,
Because
right.
it's not even like there's anything in the roadmaps really. It's there. I mean, the Apple Vision Pro is coming out next year, and I've had hands-on experience with quite a lot of VR headsets, and they're all just not great, right? They're all like they're extremely compromised in some way. Most of the time, it's in the software.
Yeah.
So there is this expectation that the Vision Pro will like push the game, right, and make everyone get better. But I don't know. I don't know. We'll have to see if it's
Yeah.
because there's such a um
You need a selling point, right? Like
yeah, and it's
there's
too
something
expensive and
being
it's
yeah,
something in your face, right?
that's the thing. There's something being cool, and then there's something being better, right? I think the reason phones, or one of the big reasons phones took off, is that they are just productive, right? I think
Hmm.
obviously now people buy phones for all kinds of reasons. A lot of people buy them as just like toys almost, right? But
Mm,
you know, to scroll social media or to do whatever. But like I think the reason that they took off so much is the productivity, right? And you can see companies trying to make that happen for VR. You see Microsoft trying to implement AR into their stuff and trying to sell it to business and corporations, not to individual consumers, right? And you see
yeah,
Apple
yeah,
trying to do it as well. They're trying to sell it so hard to productivity people, right? To people who are working, people to companies, because I think they have to, right? I think the reason that smartphones took off is because the people initially who are buying phones who are willing to spend like a stupid amount of money back in the day on the ability to call somebody wirelessly were people who had stuff to do. They needed the productivity, right? And so I think that's the thing. And same with laptops, right? The people who push laptops forward are the people who need to do work on the go. And now anybody
hmm
and their mum will buy a laptop, right? Because it's affordable and the tech's been pushed forward. But I think VR doesn't have that push, right? VR isn't productive, right? A lot of the times it
yeah,
feels the opposite, right? It feels like it's
yeah,
more cumbersome and more like unproductive to put the VR headset on and try and do anything. And so I think that's the problem that VR faces is just like that lack of productivity, right? And like
yeah,
I
yeah.
get that. That's why I
Cumbersome's
get
the word.
cumbersome is the word. I get what Facebook are trying to do. They're trying to make the productive thing getting rid of your commute, right? You put the headset on and then you go to virtual work, right? In the metaverse, right? So they show people in like meetings and stuff, right? And Apple are doing it with that horrible like
The
interpretation of your
faces.
face, yeah. But like they're trying to make that the productivity sell. And that could work, right? If everybody suddenly doesn't have to drive to work or work wherever they need to be because of the fact that they can but that already exists through like Skype or I'm a boomer. I say Skype through Teams, right? Is the one that people use these
Yeah,
days.
yeah, 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 yeah.
That already exists,
Unfortunately,
right? And
yeah,
so I don't see that being the sell that people think it is, right? If there
yeah,
was an alternative to mobile phones, like if everybody was already carrying a different thing that allowed them to make calls, right, wirelessly. I don't know if phone, obviously that is a phone, but like if by some stretch of the imagination they already had something that allowed them to do that, I don't know if the phone would have taken off in the same way it did. You know what I mean? And that feels the way that VR is heading because these companies are trying to make the productivity thing the selling point. Like, oh, you can stay at home and you can still feel like you're at work and you can still participate in the meetings and see these people. But we already have a thing that's good enough in that realm. So I don't think that sale is going to work for them. I think they need to come up with a different productivity reason for a lot of people to need a virtual or augmented reality headset. And until they do that, I don't think it's going to take off. Once they find that, I think it'll take off and then it'll slip down into the mainstream, right? Because then gaming companies can take the advanced tech that the business team have put all the R&D into, they can buy it cheaper and use it to make cool gaming stuff that then the everyday person can afford, and then it'll suddenly everyone has one, right? But until you get those productive people to buy your thing in mass for a very expensive price, I don't think it's gonna. I don't think it's gonna take off. You know.
On that note, do you reckon foldables will take off?
Foldable phones.
Horizontally foldable phones.
I don't
So
think
ones
so,
that
man.
open up into a really like a much larger display.
Yeah, I mean, I think they have to an extent, right? I think that they've taken off much more than VR headsets have, because I think there is a subsection of the population that benefits from that. But I just don't. Again, I think the problem they run into is that there are people who can take advantage of that, right? That productivity gain that you get from like a larger screen. Most people can't, which is true for like phones, right? Most people don't become more productive with like more expensive phones. Some people do, most people don't, right? Most people just buy it for the sake of buying it. But I don't know. I think the trouble there is that, again, there's already like tablets exist and are so much cheaper than the foldable phones, right? I think the foldable phone tech is cool, right? I think it's cool that like companies like Samsung and Motorola and whoever else are pushing forward the idea that you can fold a phone up. But it's weird though, because I think the market must not be big enough, because it's seemingly like just Samsung, right?
Yeah, Google's got theirs now. I don't know if it's actually out yet in the UK at least. I think it might be coming out like next month, like we're actually like releasing to the public next month. But that was an interesting one. There is, you know, there's that classic rumor that Apple might do something, but they will have to have enough
I don't see
market
them doing it, man.
Data to support it being profitable enough to make the investment into doing that, right? So
I think the thing that holds those back right now is the durability. I think the screens are like they're like soft, right? Like you can't they're getting better, I guess. And I think like the Fold looks cool as a phone, but I don't see Apple making a foldable phone anytime soon. I don't think they're gonna make one with a soft screen, and I don't know the way that like Samsung are not reducing the price on their foldable phones, right?
No,
it's not like we're not seeing cheaper and cheaper foldable phones coming out, and so I don't know, man. I don't know. I think that's kind of like, I think they're more akin to like curved TVs than they are to an advancement in phone tech, right? I think they're one of those things that we will look back on 10 years from now, and I could be wrong on this, but to me it seems like we're gonna look back on it and be like, that was odd. Right?
Yeah.
Why did we try and do that? And then we'll just, have forgotten about them, I think. Some people will have them. You'll go like you sometimes you go to someone's house now. I have a curved TV actually in my bedroom, right? I don't think about it being curved because you don't even notice the curve, hence why they don't exist anymore. But I think curved TVs are and 3D TVs have gone the way of the dinosaur, right? Whereas and I think the same will be true for folding phones. I think they're just, I don't think they're gonna take off.
Interesting. The one advantage I can see on those are people who need to compose a ton of emails on the go, but don't want to carry a tablet. Because I see a lot of business people with them who just go flip, and then they'll use both hands to like spit out an email and then flip it closed again and then take it away.
But like I think at that point, they would just carry around like a MacBook Air, right? Like, or something like that, right? Like if you have so many emails and stuff that you need to compile, it's like with the iPad, right? Like I've got the iPad and I wasted my money on the Folio keyboard for it, right? Thinking that was a good purchase. It wasn't. Don't buy it. But they're just so awkward to work with, right? Like I've tried to work like on my iPad, but just it's so much easier to be productive on an actual computer, right? And I think the same is true on a phone. Maybe I'm just a boomer, right, who is not as productive on his phone as some Zoomers
No,
are.
I agree. Yeah,
but I cannot be that productive. I can shoot short emails and stuff, but I'm just not as productive on the phone. And I feel like that's probably true for a lot of people. If they have a lot of emailing and stuff to do, they're probably just going to carry around like a small laptop as opposed to paying, because for the price of a folding phone, the Fold is like $2,000, right? You can get a MacBook Air and an iPhone 15 Pro, right? The MacBook Air costs less than $1,000, I think, and the 15 Pro costs $1,000. You can get both of those together for the price of a Fold. The Fold might be like $1,700 now, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like it's a small difference.
You can get the older MacBook Air, the wedge one, which they do still sell, and you can get an iPhone 15 regular. I think you can do that in 1,700s quite comfortably. I want to say, so it is possible.
Right, that's the thing.
Yeah,
like how much is the M1? Yeah, the M1 Air is $999.
Yes.
So I
Okay.
mean, you know, and you can get like a regular iPhone if you want, like a non-pro, right, for
Yeah. Yeah.
£800 or whatever it is. So yeah,
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? I think most people are going to see that as a better value, like 100% of the time, and I think it objectively is a better value than the
Yeah.
folding phone, right?
100%.
Like, I would say just the £1,000 of the laptop is probably a better value than the phone, but you know, the fact that you can get a phone and a laptop, and those are two expensive phones and laptops, right? You can get cheaper laptops and cheaper phones. So yeah, I don't see folding phones being. I don't see the productivity gain from a folding phone being enough to sell people, right?
Exactly.
As opposed to like old actual phones where having to be tethered to a landline versus being able to be anywhere and make a call, that's a huge increase in productivity, right? The fact that you can now contact anybody you want anywhere at any time is massive, right?
Very interesting. It's very interesting. We have to see what the future holds. Who knows? The future device that we've been wondering what it could be the one thing that does everything, right?
Yeah.
So who knows if that
Let us
may come
know
to fruition
in the comments or on the Discord what you think the future is going to be. Do you think folding phones are going to take over the world? Do you think you're going to wear an AR headset at some point in the next 10 years? Do you think you're going to wear an AR headset at some point in the next 10 years? Like, do you think you'll wear one voluntarily? Which sounds odd, like no one's going to force you to wear it, but like you might be told to wear it for work, I don't know. Do you think you would wear one voluntarily for like just out and about?
No, not out and about. Like it's just
in the next 10 years. So by 2033,
2033, yeah. I want to say no.
You don't think you're going to have any kind of augmented vision assistance while you're out and about?
No, I want to say no. But as outlandish as that sounds, the idea of that sounds, loads of people walking around with earphones in.
That's what I was going to say. You've got like smart assistants on, people wearing headphones over your headphones, you know.
Yeah.
That is true.
So people are kind of already consumed in their own world while out and about. Their earphones in on their phone, right? Could that phone just be transferred into something onto your face? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's
like,
the thing.
If you can walk around with like your headphones on in like pass-through mode, so you can hear what's around you, but you're still kind of focused in on what's you're playing. And I don't know, if you're wearing like your regular glasses, but you can have like a YouTube video playing in the top right corner of your vision, right? So you're just walking down the street, no one else can see on their side what you're watching, but on your side, you can hear the environment, but you also like, I don't know, I could see that, you know, I could see myself engaging in that if it's small enough, right?
Yeah, that's it.
If they could take your regular glasses right now and make them AR, I think at that point, there's probably a chance that you'd be like, yeah, I'll do that. Right? It's only if you have to like strap on a big old thing that
big
it's not
behemoth of a thing.
Yeah.
I think the tech is still too ahead of its time. Just like it was when Google Glass came out. It's still too ahead of its time. I think like you say, if it gets smaller, it'll be better.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But then it's tricky though, because like I think that we're running into this problem now, right? Where like they might solve the problem, but it seems like we're currently approaching the limit to how small we can make transistors, right? On silicon wafers, right? Like, unless we find like a different material or a new manufacturing technique, right? Like we're getting down to 5 nanometers, 3 nanometers, like 1 nanometer, but like trying to break that, like trying to get, is it a micrometer smaller than a nanometer? I don't know what's, or is it a micrometer bigger than a nanometer?
It'll be pico.
Trying to get down to like a picometer size, like it seems like they're struggling with that, right? Like they're slowing down in terms of the density.
That's it. So like I think below 1 nanometer, I want to say, the electrons will start jumping between transistors and then it becomes unviable, right?
Yeah.
So I think the next thought or the next innovation is like 3D, like chips. Yeah, we stack them on top, so you can put multiple chips on top of the same surface area.
Yeah.
But yeah, below that kind of thing, I think there's currently like it's all R&D right now, right? There's nothing in production that can get past that problem.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll have to see like how much smaller we can make things.
Right.
Because there's all like nanotech and stuff that has its own like small little. There's all like little research bits coming out about how nanotech can help, and then uses of that in
because that's the thing.
Tech as well.
Yeah, if there's like a big jump, right, like there was a time when they figured out they could use silicon as a way to produce the transistors, right? And suddenly it's like, oh, we can make these, we can shrink these down massively, right? If there was like a newfound, if they figured out suddenly they could use, I don't know, mercury. I don't think mercury is the answer, but like if they found another way to develop transistors like this, right? Or another material they could use. If there was like suddenly if there was suddenly like a big jump in how small we could make them, like a huge change to the point where in like 10 years we suddenly managed to massively shrink them, then I think there could be a massive change in how viable AR becomes very quickly, right? Like I think in a very small period of time, we could go from thinking like this is crazy, it's never going to happen, or it's not going to happen in the next 10 years, to being like, oh yeah, obviously this is going to happen in less than 10 years, right?
Yeah, and I think the bigger challenge before chips is batteries, right? Battery density is too low. Battery density is just too low for everything. Not even just the tech, the pocket tech that we use for cars and things like airplanes and shipping, and all that. The entire sector of batteries, that one needs to become better as well.
Batteries, they made me think of self-driving cars, man. And I think it's wild because I think there were clips of you and I on the internet from like 2013, 2014 being like, do you think we'll have full self-driving cars 10 years from now?
And we probably said yeah.
We probably said yes. We probably said yeah, we're gonna have self-driving cars, and we don't. They're not here, right? Like we have pseudo self-driving cars, but like I think if we were to look back at those clips, I think you and I were probably a lot more optimistic on where the self-driving tech would be now than it currently is, which is also interesting. Also, final little note here, Nick. The day after we recorded the last podcast where we were talking about cars as a service, BMW dropped their subscription for heated seats, man. They've got rid of it. It's gone.
Like, no, wait, what? They got rid of it. They got rid of it?
Yeah, it's gone. They've stopped doing it.
No way.
We were talking about it.
Holy crap.
The day after we recorded it, BMW scraps their controversial heated seat subscription plan. They've got rid of it. And I think even though the podcast that we recorded wasn't out at the time, Nick, I like to imagine that someone
they listened.
At BMW was listening, and they were like, well, if these guys are complaining about it.
Oh, yeah, look at that. That is very interesting. That is very interesting. Oh.
Yep.
Love that. It's going to be £15 a month in the UK, Jesus. That is terrible.
It's horrible. It's such a bad look. I can't imagine why anyone thought that was a good idea.
Yeah.
I imagine somebody just looked at it and was like, oh, well, there are 15 million BMWs we're going to sell next year, and if we charge everyone £15 a month, then we're going to rake it in. But, oof.
Too much face value calculations.
But yeah, in good news, that is no longer a thing. And
that is very good news.
That's all good. Unfortunately, though, Nick, we're out of time for this episode of the What Have You Been Up To podcast. I've been your co-host, Isaac, along with Nick here, who hopefully is going to feel better before the next podcast. Oh, another final thing, Nick. I want to give a zombie bite update.
Yes, please.
He's fine. He's healed.
It's gone. I did see all the comments actually referring to the zombie bite. It was like the hematoma that you mentioned, or like the blood. Like it just everyone was like, "Your vein has collapsed, but it's fine." I was reading those and like, that's not what you want to hear, right?
No, right. But that's generally what I was reading online. People were like, yeah, it looks real bad, but like it's fine. And it is.
Well, it's good to see. It's gone away.
My arm is back to normal.
There you go.
So that's the update. And I'll keep you all updated on my onion usage as I continue to plow through 4 kilograms of onions. For now, though, thank you for listening. You can listen on any of your favorite podcasting platforms, by the way. If you didn't know, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, anywhere you want to listen to your podcasts, we should be there. You can also join our Discord. That's Discord. That's WHYBUT.discord. It's WHYBUT. It's discord.whybut.co is the link, and it's available also in the panels down below. Nick has frozen for me, which makes me think that I have lost him again on connection, but that's fine. You can visit the links in the show notes or in the description on YouTube to check us out wherever you listen to your podcasts, or to join the Discord as well, where other people are talking about the podcast as well. For now, though, thank you for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.